Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is the Beanie After Dark edition. Cheers, Chan. They say it in Korea. We are sipping today with my boy, Nick Gayoso.
Yes, sir.
And today we're going to be talking about nothing but sports and sports only. We're going to be talking about paintballing. We're going to talk about a lot about the World Cup soccer that's going on right now.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're going to be chopping shop. Maybe jump into football a little bit because I know that's a big thing right now too. So yeah, very excited to sit down with you. Yeah, we actually got a cool little thing going on. If you want to show the squad, yeah. This is pretty dope. I was like, yo, look at this. This is no joke.
So this is my actual paintball gun that I use for tournaments, practice. I mean, this is it. This is my go-to right here.
So so that's only one trigger, right? Like, is it?
It's a double trigger.
That looks just nuts.
Yeah.
Look mad dangerous right there.
I mean, this thing it's a blast to shoot, man. So it's a DLX Technologies. It's a Lux TM40. So Lux is kind of the model. TM40 is kind of like the submodel, essentially. So.
Okay, so this is So for those who don't know, this is the paintballing is known as an NXL, right? Because I think NPL is the National Ping Pong League, right? I don't know if that's the truth or not, but
I have no idea. So NXL is like it's like the NFL of paintball.
Sure,
it's like the biggest league in the US for paintball, and it's where the pro division is at.
And that's where Worlds just happened for. This crazy is back to back for you. This must be a great time to be.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah,
you go from obviously for those who don't know, Nick is really big into soccer, and you can check out his life story in the description. We've sat down with him, and it's really, really interesting for those who want to dive into that. So that's really, really fun. So anyway, more of the story. So one of the things I really wanted to chat shop with you about is the kind of that whole starting off with a kind of ping pong. Sorry, well, Jesus. See now, I think it's already started. It's already getting to me. Obviously the paintballing and that whole aspect of things, because that thing was fascinating. Watching that entire show, they're taking this mad seriously.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like I was looking at it, I was thinking like, man, this is tiring. Like it's just nonstop. There's no real I mean, it's even in football, I guess soccer kind of feels the same. It's just always kind of running. Yeah. But you have like a big squad of people that's subbing in and out. But you don't have like that big of a team. When I was looking at the bench, most people were sitting around like 8 maybe.
Yeah, so most teams are going to carry around like 8 to 10 guys.
Sure.
Pro teams are probably going to carry higher towards that 10, 11. Just because their matches are a little bit longer. Pros play 15-minute matches, whereas the lower divisions, depending on where you are, is like if you're Division 5, which is the lowest, you start at 8 minutes, and then it kind of moves up from there a little by little until you get to the pro.
So I have a question here. So watching paintballing, right? Watching that actual aspect of things and that whole game of the back and forth, the interactions with the teams. One of the things I really noticed is that it seems like the biggest region is California. I saw Sacramento, LA. I'm saying like a lot of like obviously familiar cities around California, but in a world kind of space. But I also saw some other teams as well, but I didn't know what region they came from. They just kind of have different names.
So Cali for sure has, it's definitely, outside of just pro teams, Cali is definitely a hot spot for paintball. I mean, we have, like, just down here in SoCal, we have, 4 different, fields that people can go play at. NorCal definitely has a couple fields, with the CEPP, Capital Edge Paintball in Sacramento being the biggest one that they have up north.
Right. But that's Sacramento Thunder, right?
No, Sacramento DMG.
Yeah. And DMG was like, they're dangerous too. I was looking at them, and they're actually
they put on a pretty good tournament.
Right.
It unfortunately wasn't good enough to save them. They actually finished last in the rankings.
Yeah, I heard.
And it was relegated.
Running the things I was noticing, because they were promised, like when you were watching kind of the highlights they were going over, like kind of pre-entering the show, like they were looking to be like really, really good, but they didn't get to really see the full stride of them kind of play out during the the league. I think a lot of the one-on-ones they lost, and it's really that was really interesting as well.
Yeah,
seeing them go one-on-one, that was actually that's fascinating.
Yeah,
as well.
I mean that's kind of what paintball really comes down to is like even though it is 5-on-5, you're basically just playing a bunch of one-on-ones because you can only shoot at one person.
Sure, right.
So you're practically just playing a bunch of one-on-ones against 5 different people at like, and you're kind of just switching back and forth between whoever you're shooting at any given moment.
So you start off, obviously, for those who don't know, right? You start off the game, right? You have 5 players, and this isn't the league, right? This is not like every match, but you have 5 players. They have to keep their muzzles against like this starting bin, right? But once you hear the sound, it is on.
Yeah.
Like you turn, and I'm surprised they don't shoot each other because they're swinging. So you swing, and you're already like you're shooting. And some of the crazy things I was watching on day 2, like you would see the smoke like coming from their muzzles.
Oh,
like,
yeah. It's because it's cold.
It's cold, yeah. So I was like, no, that's really dope, too. So it was like, it was pretty cool because you just see them just sizzling, right? But they're like, you're crawling, like you're trying to make moves on the 50-50, right? Everyone's trying to race to the 50-50 because, I mean, that's the center is where you get really the gain. And there's a strat to be involved. There's rushing strats. You have like, fall behind, or like you have 5 people just shooting down the lane, just trying to
yeah. It's definitely, it's chaos off the break, but it's organized chaos. These aren't, I mean, I feel like a lot of people, when they think of paintball, they think, like I said before, just dudes running around in a field shooting at each other. But when you kind of get into this organized sport of tournament paintball,
sure,
it's chaos. But like I said, it's organized. there is when you hear that horn, there is a strategy. Everyone has their job to do off the break when whether it's running and gunning, shooting, or if they just if they're just head down trying to run to a bunker without getting shot.
See, one of the things though that other sports have that I didn't notice that that how do I say this? Paintballing did is positions. It felt like they all played. There was there was no like, hey, you're a flanker, you're like a you're just like everyone is doing everything. There is no like really roles you have, or maybe I'm mistaken here. That's something else.
I mean, there's definitely roles. You do have players. Like you have the snake side and the Dorito side. You do have players who are like, I guess that's like their specialty, right? Like playing on the snake side, playing on the Dorito side. And there's players who excel at it. If you look at like if you think of like Edmonton Impact, they have Alex Goldman. He's considered, at least right now, probably one of the top snake players. In general, one of the top paintball players, but for sure one of the top snake players. And then if you look at Dynasty, who actually won World Cup, they have right now. I don't think I think he's underrated. Dalton Vanderbilt. He actually won the Top Gun award for the tournament for the most kills in the event, and he's typically a Dorito-sided player. But and once you're at that level, everybody needs to be able to play everywhere. Whether you're like going snake, Dorito, if you're one of the guys who has to go, especially with this layout with that big wall in the center.
Right.
If you're the guy going up there who has to play the center, if you're more of we call it a 3, which is essentially you're the one who kind of stays back and essentially quarterbacks the team, or you can kind of see the whole field. So everyone has those like. It's kind of like your specialty or kind of what you're strong at.
Right.
But everyone at that level, and even at our level, you need to be able to play everywhere because like I mentioned before, the layout of the field isn't always the same. It always changes, from tournament to tournament. So you need to be able to adapt. Like for this layout specifically, the World Cup, the snake side wasn't really strong. It wasn't a layout where you needed to get into the snake. Mostly because the gaps to get in were really big. So it was difficult to get into the snake in general. So it wasn't a layout that was very snake dominant. It was definitely a center dominant layout. So that's why you saw not a lot of teams were going into the snake, or at all even.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things I also noticed is that the players the players that are playing the game, right? You have these paintballers, and what they're doing is you come off the muzzle, right? And since you shoot, you're not shooting like one thing I noticed is that you're not just shooting to hit. I know that doesn't make sense. You're shooting to stop people from running a certain way.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it is that like you're just trying to control a zone. I guess that's what they call it.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Right?
That's what it is.
So you control a zone, keeping someone from being able to go that side, and then it allows your team to kind of like it's really interesting the way you're trying to distract people, and then sometimes you just see everyone just stop shooting and people just start scrambling trying to find a new place to go, and then now no one knows where people are at. And one of the things was really hard to find out, which is I was curious about being a player and how that would work, is that you don't know who's in or who's out. Like, you really just, it's hard to count because so many, like, you're shooting. How many bullets? How many paintballs a minute? A second?
So we ramp. It's called ramping. The legal limit is 10.5 balls per second.
That's just like shooting. And one hits you, right?
Yeah.
Like they're flying. So you just don't really that means you're going through. I'm seeing them try, and that's really the key here. It's like you play on the reload, right? You're playing, waiting for them to stop, because I think you can hear it hitting your.
Yeah, I mean it's a multitude of things. You know, you're always, especially if you're an attacker, you're always looking for that gap. You know, whether it's like you said, they stop shooting at you, and it all comes down. It's teamwork, right?
Sure.
Because, you know, a lot of times, like what you said, like, you know, you're waiting for that gap or you're waiting for the reload. A lot of times there'll be moments where, you know, you need to be the one to make that push, but, you know, someone's controlling that zone on you. So that's where that team aspect of the communication comes into play, to where a lot of times you need to tell your guy, like, if someone's behind you, be like, hey, you know, this guy's keeping me in. I need you to shoot at him. So that way, once he shoots at that guy, he puts him in, so he stops shooting that zone at you. Now you can make the bump. And sometimes you just got to do it yourself. You have to fight your way up the field by shooting back at him to tuck him in, and then you can go yourself.
And the premise of the game, right? You're obviously, your goal is to eliminate the players, but that's really not the point. And what some of the games I notice is that sometimes you're just trying to, like, not only, it's really hard on the world level to sneak up there, but like you're just I've seen them just, and people will make it to the other side and not get hit. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I'm like, wait, like, how is this happening? But they'll run over, shoot everyone just to and then someone run behind them. And they would take all the bullets, and you just like, and it's really tactical, like the way the game is developed and how you can see the progression, and it's really looks like a lot of potential. It's just watching the way this game is done. It's really, really cool. And I'm kind of fascinated to why, like, it hasn't got. And I was looking at some of the comments of some of the actual world, and a lot of people were kind of, like they said, the biggest disappointment is that, like, you can't really, it's hard to see what's happening because you don't really get to see. But the good news is that you know who gets hit because you can see the paint on them, right? Like, so, but even then, it's gone, like, boom. And even and it's funny, in the top, they'll have, like, these 5 men up there.
Yeah.
And they don't even know. Like, they're like, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing where, with, like, it's you know, even for the commentators themselves, it's hard to keep control sometimes with everything going on. You know, you don't, because it's like I said, you know, you don't have a focal point. You know, you don't have, like, you know, a ball to watch or one ball to watch.
Sure, yeah.
You know, you have 5 guys shooting an enormous amount of paintballs at each other, so you're just trying to, like, go back and forth, keep track. And I mean, if you really even pay attention, there's plenty of times where the commentators, they'll be like, oh, it's a 4-on-3, you know, and then they'll be like, wait, no, it's not, it's a 4-on-2, or wait, this guy just got shot out like 5 minutes ago and we just barely realized it. Because there's so much going on. It's
so cool though. And do you think one of the things I wanted to ask you, right, is that being such a, the way I've noticed the way it works is that you start off with like 15 or 10 minutes, and it just slowly gets down. Every time you tap the buzzer, you would essentially stop the time, and then you continue, right? And the goal is to have more buzzers than the other.
Yeah, to score more points than the other team before
the time runs out. Yep. And one of the things I noticed is that if I don't know why they started doing one-on-ones, which I didn't understand. Mm-hmm. Why did that come into play? Was it because they hit overtime? Is that like the?
So typically, when it comes to one-on-ones, if it's just a normal 5-on-5, and sometimes, you know, you eliminate each other until you only have one left. That's just part of the game. It's not like a.
But I saw them start off.
Oh yeah. So once you play overtime. In pro you have your 15-minute regulation. If at the end of the 15 minutes you're still tied, you go to a 5-minute overtime. If you end that 5-minute overtime and nobody scored a point, then you go to one-on-ones. And at that point, it's a one-on-one. Whoever wins the one-on-one wins. But it's also timed. I think it's 5 minutes as well. If within those 5 minutes nobody gets hit, then they just another two come on.
I'm not gonna lie. Watching the and this is my question for you. Watching the 1-on-1 was so much not only easier to watch, but it was actually more interesting, right? Because one of the things I felt like, that there's one person out there, they know there's one person out there, and there's a strat. I've seen some dude just literally get punched like he was on the Dorito, right, very in the far back, and this dude rushed the 50-50, right, but kept him on the Dorito, like he would not. And I mean, he was in broad, right, but anytime he tried to, he just like would ramp up, right. And one of the things I felt like I saw people was able to do, which I think is like, I don't know how, is that he's still shooting and then he grabs and then he reloads and still shooting. Yeah. And then like, how do you like, it's so you there's no way to, you just seeing it just getting like, is this dude ever going to reload? But no, people are able to do it.
Yeah. You have to reload while you're shooting.
That is wild.
That especially comes into play when, I mean, even just outside of 1-on-1s, when it's a regular 5-on-5, and you're controlling a zone, the moment you, especially at that level, the moment you drop that stream of paint, you give them a gap, they're going to go for it. That's reloading, shooting and like reloading at the same time is a huge, it's crazy because it's such a small detail.
Right.
It's if once you really do it, and like if you actually just do it yourself, like whenever you like if you ever do it your first time going paintball and you reload, it's really not that hard.
No.
All you're doing is pulling a pot out, and just dumping it into your loader, and you just keep shooting. But it's such a huge part of the game because you got to keep that zone at all times.
So what do you think? Do you think that the game would thrive more if they did more 1-on-1s, or do you? Because again, you can follow what's going on the game, and actually, if you give them more time, like I think you get more like 5 people rushing at each other. I mean, that's obviously fascinating. Yeah. But like 2-on-2, 1v1s, like what do you think about that form of dynamic? Because that as a first time watcher, like the one, and that's why I know I keep bringing it up, because the 1-on-1s, even though it was just like an overtime small bit of big Pete, that was really interesting seeing them. And you can circle each other like obviously you can't because you have to touch each other's buzzers in some way. So you're trying to defend the flag in a way. Yeah. But like that was something that I thought was really, really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to like the one, like the 1-on-1s, it's like I said, it's you have more of a focal point because now instead of keeping track of 10 people, you have to keep track of just 2 people.
Sure.
So it makes it so much easier to follow. And it makes it easier to, follow what's going on, instead of, keeping track of, oh, this guy went here, this guy went there. It's like, oh, he just went here, he went here. So it's just make it easier to follow. But in terms of like, if the sport would grow better if it went down to like that, probably not.
Really?
Realistically.
Okay.
And a lot of it has to do with money.
Sure.
Because, if you have...
Paying 5 players versus 1... I think it would be easier to actually because then it'd be, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but like I said, a lot of it just comes down to, I mean, and 5-on-5 is the newest format, right? When it started back in the day, early 2000s, we were doing 10-on-10s.
Right.
Then it went to 7-on-7, and now we have the current, iteration of 5-on-5. It's just, a lot of it has to do, I think it's the best format, 5-on-5. It's just how the game works.
Okay.
Because if you go into like 1-on-1 and stuff like that, it's supposed to be a team sport. If you take it into 1-on-1s, it's kind of just like, what's the point of having a team?
Well, like okay.
Now you're just playing. You might as well just play for yourself.
Okay, so one thing about basketball that makes basketball really special, right, is because you have positions and roles in your positions, right? Yeah. Shaq is supposed to do one thing, he's point guard, right? You know that you got, like each player is doing something specific that makes them great at that specific craft. And for the game, it feels like you're not playing a position, you're playing I don't want to say a barrier, but like that's the best way I can explain it in my mind. And one of the things I felt was like, if you were able to go and do like a 2v2, right? And but my question for you, right, is as you see over time that it keeps getting smaller and smaller. I wonder what the reading is. Do you know why that happens? Because one of the things I noticed is that I'm curious on why they make those decisions, but one of the things I think it is because is not only the viewer side of things, but it's also really hard to compensate 10 players, right? It's much easier to compensate. Well, you're still, 20, because you have to have 10 other people on the bench or 15 or whatever, but now it's at least at 10. Yeah. And making it just one person, you have like some of the most interesting ping pong. You can have two players. Even beach volleyball is a good example of like you can have 6 people, but then you could break it down to 2, and that's made like one of the best Olympic sports ever.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious on like your perspective. Why has it gone down? Right? Why has it gone down? And being a player, what is the difference? I don't know if you ever played 1-on-1s or 2-on-2s or 5v5s. Like, what do you think is like the appeal as a player to a 5v5, or is it even fun as a 10v10? Can you give me more of an understanding of like?
I mean, they're all fun. Like like we said, like 10v10. Like we had practice this past weekend, and we played a 10v10 on the field, and it's a blast playing. And I played 10 man at World Cup too, and it's awesome. It's so fun because the field is like double the size of what the normal field of 5v5 is. So I mean, it's so difficult. Like they have like 1-on-1 tournaments, like small local ones. They do like 2-on-2s. 3v3s is actually something that's they have at all events. They have like a 3-man tournaments, and they had them at World Cup too. So there is, they do have those smaller tournaments, where it's like, 3v3, 2v2s instead of just the normal 5-on-5s. And actually right now, 10-man is actually making a big comeback right now. So a lot of events or a lot of like leagues and stuff like that are holding 10-man events again, rather than just the normal 5v5. Like the local one here, the WCPPL, we have a 10-man tournament in 2 weeks, December 3rd and 4th. And this is the second annual one that they've done. So they had one last year and they're having one this year. So there's definitely the market for playing, 10-man is still there. And it's like I said, right now it's making a big comeback because a lot of these teams a lot of these leagues are starting to get back into it because they realize that people still want to play it. And it's a good way to bring old school ballers back into it. Older guys who haven't played or maybe aren't a fan of the current iteration of paintball right now. So they, having these 10-man events kind of just lets them kind of relive that, what they had back in the day when they were playing.
And what do you think, again, it feels like with this sport specifically, right, this podcast, if you don't know, this is the Unhinged, right? I'm really trying to get a better understanding, right, of like it feels like the players run the sport. It's not like the audience or like the viewers are the ones who, because that's how it feels like every other sport is ran, right?
Yeah.
You have the viewers who dictate what they want to watch, and by what they want to watch is what the people will essentially do. The players just want to play in any way, shape, or form. You just want to shoot each other. But obviously, there's a format that you like. You want war, right? That's the whole kind of aspect it feels like with paintballing.
Yeah.
The being like 10 guys and see like your brothers, charging in, and I can imagine like the feeling of like seeing that aspect happening. I imagine with 10 people is more invigorating.
Yeah.
But I definitely can tell, like, as a viewer, one of the hardest things was just kind of like watching this each game and just kind of seeing it progress and just recognizing that, man, it's really hard to get. It's like, I think you are a little bit different because you watched it for a while, but it's really hard to kind of really build a relationship with a player, right? To kind of really kind of like man, I really enjoy the dynasty players. Like I wish I knew one of their names. Like, just honestly, like, man, really get to adapt and be able to feel like, oh, okay, I know about this player. I know about like what this person does, and what makes them special. And I feel like you gain that when you have kind of like those, not only just those smaller teams, but when your team, I guess when this league is really trying to promote individual key players, like, so I don't know what's your thoughts on that, but definitely I could see it as a player how exciting that could be.
Yeah, I mean, I like to go. I like what you said about how, like, you said the players are the ones who run the sport.
Sure,
and it's true because a lot of the people who watch it are players themselves.
Sure,
what I mean? It's not. It's a very niche sport where, unlike basketball or football, like I watch basketball and I watch football too. I'm not a basketball player. I'm not a football player.
Sure.
But I'll still watch the sport. Whereas paintball is a little different, where most of the people who are watching it, the people you see like in the stands for events, those are players too. Those are most likely players who are also playing the event.
Sure.
And in their off time where they don't have a game or their day is done or they got knocked out of the tournament, they'll go watch the pro guys because, who doesn't want to watch, the pro players play. So, yeah, it's definitely run by, or at least the players themselves are a big part of the viewership. in paintball. Which is unfortunate, because and like I said, I just think it goes back to that whole thing of it's hard to keep track if you're not someone who's really seen it before or watched it before or even played it yourself. It's hard for you to follow along.
But I think you want to feel like you can. That's one thing I recognize. Like me watching, I wanted to feel like, man, I can get it.
Yeah.
But another big thing was I also kind of had to take in the fact that, like, if I did really understand the intricacies of it all,
yeah,
I was still pretty excited watching it. Like it's really fun to watch. Like it's not like one of those sports that is, and again, no shade to the World Cup soccer going on. We're about to get into that. But it's not one of those sports where it takes forever to really that kind of, just like, oh yeah, okay. Oh no, it's like off the rip. There's things going on. You're glued to the screen trying to see what happens. But
yeah.
But then by the end of it, you're like, wait, what just happened? Like you don't really have that. You don't get satisfied in the same way. Where soccer, I think, does it really well because it's the same kind of relationship. There's a lot of players on the field.
Yeah.
It's a big field, but it's open, right? So you can see everyone in the dynamics of things. You know where the ball's at, so you know where to focus on. Like you said, there's the focal point. But one of the things I think would be really, really cool is if they had not only cams on the guns, which I know you said that they were trying to introduce with this time. Yeah. Because you even saw cameramans getting shot, which was really funny. Like the cameras were getting shot, and they're like, "Oh shoot!" They just scam over to other people. But you have the referees. You have to have like 8 referees up in there, right? Like there's a few of them.
I think there's.
I'm tripping.
12 of them.
Oh snap!
Yeah, no,
I even got that wrong. Yeah. But like you're there's a lot of checks and balances, right? Like you have a guy who's gonna run like on Snake, crawling through Snake, right? Yeah. He's trying to go and hit someone on like on a triangle or like what they call a rectangle or whatever.
Doritos.
So Doritos, and then what like a rectangle, is that right?
Yeah, we call them the bricks.
The brick. Okay.
Yeah.
And so he pivots, and they both look at each other and they shoot.
Yeah.
And then they're both screaming because they're like, I shot him first, he shot, like, and then you're just, the referees, like, all 8 of them, there's like, I don't know. Like, the bullets are so quick.
Yeah, being a ref is super hard, and especially in the pro league, because, these dudes are, they're, aside from being really good paintball players, they're also really good cheaters, and paintball, as much of it, it's an honor sport, right? It's, you get shot, call your, the whole, you got to call yourself out. But I'd be lying if I'd say we don't cheat.
It's a world cup.
Yeah, well, I mean that's just whether it's World Cup or just any other event in general, people
don't want to lose.
Yeah, people don't want to lose. Players wipe hits. They try to hide hits, or they try to get away with stuff. And like I said, being a referee, it's super hard. Because you have to make those decisions of when 2 guys shoot at each other, it's like, who shot who first,
right?
And sometimes it's so close to where if you're a ref, you have to make that decision. You're like fuck, but good referees at that level, it's the decision is still hard to make, but they're you being there up close, there's, you definitely know when it's at the same time, or if it was like, okay, he shot him first, but yeah, players definitely cheat. They ride on that line of wiping hits, because if you get caught wiping a hit, that's a big, you'll fuck your team big time on a point, because you have minors and majors. A minor is just a 1-for-1, so they'll pull you for the penalty, and then they'll pull one of your teammates. A major is a 2-for-1, so they'll pull you plus 2 guys. If you get caught wiping specifically, that's a gross major, so they're pulling 4 guys on that, and you have 5 players at any given moment. So if you get caught wiping, you get a gross major, you just wiped out your whole team minus 1 guy.
So is that like just for the round?
Yeah, just for that one point.
For that one point.
Yeah, for that one point. But I mean, it can carry on into other points. So like, if it's if you get a major and you're the last guy alive, that carries. It's because they don't have any more bodies to pull. The way they'll assess the penalty, one is they'll give the other team the automatic point.
So, okay, I'm going to let you continue here, but my question was, and for just those who were watching that didn't get to see the show, didn't get to see the World Cup, one of the things I noticed is that they're really only checking the person who touches the buzzer, right? Is that kind of accurate? Or are they always checking whoever walks off the field?
No, I mean, throughout the game, as the game's being played, you have the referees, watching the players to, make sure. I mean, my buddy, one of my ref buddies, like to say this a lot. I'll tell him, like, the referees are there to enforce the rules, but he always tells me, he's like, no, the referees are there to enforce safety, the safety of the players. But they will enforce, the rules if they catch a player, playing on with a hit, wiping, doing whatever. But yeah, so when it comes to like touching the buzzer specifically, they check that one player himself.
Because I saw it every single round. Like, you always check the person. He turns around, he makes sure that he has nothing on him.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about the others, right? Because I never got to see the other referees check some of the other players who still was there.
Yeah.
As they got off, because I imagine you just check your gloves if it'll still be on there. Or I don't know how wiping works, but I mean some people must be really good at it. So
yeah, I mean there's different way. There's so many when it comes down to wiping. It's
like, okay, look, I don't want to say it, but like
no, you. I mean, when you're not being a wiper. Wiping a hit is nothing to be proud of. But it's definitely something that everyone's done. I 100% have done it. I've never gotten caught doing it. I remember one time I got shot straight in the hand. I was literally just holding a zone shooting, and the dude just hit me straight in the hand. I immediately came into my bunker, and I just put my hand against the bunker, and I acted like if I was like talking to my teammates, like calling out like where the other guys were, and I just started rubbing my hand on the bunker until it went away. So I mean, there's creative ways to wipe. Whether it's like if you get shot in the leg while you're running, you can slide it off. Or you can, like I said, you can like rub it off on a bunker, or sometimes you'll just literally just do it with your hand. But as far as, like I said, going like with touching the buzzer, yeah, they're only checking that guy because he's the actual one who touched the buzzer.
So they want to just make sure at least one person.
Yeah, he has to be clean because he's the one who touched the buzzer. If they find a hit on him, then it's a dirty hang, and it's either a no point or it's a point for the other team.
Ooh.
Yeah, but there are instances you can be called out for a hit while they're checking him. Like if you're still like I said, if you're playing on and the ref sees a hit on you, you're eliminated. And if you're still playing on, you're gonna get eliminated and you're gonna get a minor for it.
Yeah, see, I think that's I didn't see anyone during the World Cup, so I wasn't really catching if anyone was caught wiping. I'm not sure if you saw it during this.
No, I didn't see any, but it's probably because just because they didn't throw a flag for it doesn't mean that nobody did.
Of course, yeah, of course. So so one of the things I was curious about as well is I think you're about to go into it. So you have these people who obviously they're trying to not get outscored, right? You're not trying to lose here, right? But you only get 3 matches, right? You only get 3 matches. If you lose 3 matches, then you're eliminated. Essentially, that's the way I was.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of just like every other sport with you have the group stage, right? You have the pro division just any division. You're separated into groups depending on how many teams are in the division. It's a group of 4, group of 5, or and so on. And yeah, you typically get 3 prelim matches. And depending on how you end up, how many points you get, or just it's basically goes off of wins and losses.
Right.
If you win all 3 of your prelim games, you're most likely moving on to the playoffs or to the next round. If you win 1 and you tie 1, lose, or if you win 1, you lose 2, win 2, lose 1. It kind of just goes like with every other sport. Like like with soccer right now with the World Cup going on, it's all based off of points.
Right.
You get 5 points if you win a game. If you tie a game, you get 1 point. If you lose a game, you obviously get no points. So yeah, it just works off of a point system in the group stages, and then once depending on how many teams there are, they'll either take like top 2 per bracket, top 3, top 2 plus 2 wild cards, and then they'll kind of depending on. Now, then they go off of seeding, like who has the best record, all the way down to who has the worst record of the teams that moved on, and then they'll seed you accordingly, and then they'll start the playoffs.
I think one of the things that could do really well for the because one of the things I was thinking earlier was like man, I'm trying to figure out like how do you get into this? And the only thing I didn't look close enough, but the only thing that made sense was the military. Like you had the Army and the Navy play against each other.
Yeah, so they had the what was it called? I think it was called the Commanders Cup or something like that. I forgot what they had a name for it.
You might turn the notifications off, Sarah. I'm not sure whose that is.
That was actually my phone.
Oh, okay. I'm about
to watch.
Oh, I was gonna say I'm tripping. I was like, yo, is that me? I was like,
someone's trying to break into my house. It's my camera going off.
Oh, snap. Hey, listen, guys. Listen, they got you. They know where you're at.
There we go.
Yeah, they're like,
But
it's real life out here in the street.
Yeah.
Hey, get the paintballs out.
But going back to like we said, so they had the cup with those Navy, Marines, Air Force, and Army against each other. That was just kind of like a little fun thing that they did. It wasn't like that's not something that they do year
Was
round.
that actually military members?
Yeah, it's actually active and former military members.
So that's a question I had, because one of the things I'm thinking about, like, okay, how do you get high school students into this, or like maybe a college team, because there are college paintball teams too. And I was curious. I was about to ask you about that, because like one of the things I feel like was with that this league could you really use is kind of like that ramp up like you get when it comes to every other sport, right? Like, we're going to get into soccer. You were talking about travel teams, and you have like these other teams you're working with. Like, so you get to work and you get to grow within the, as you get better and better, you get to go and grow in better teams and so on and so forth. So is there such a thing like with, like, I know you mentioned you and your team, you get to practice. How does that work from you going from, to getting to that pro level? Like, what does that process look like?
I mean, for one, it's hard work. You got to practice. It's a lot different from soccer or any other regular sport where you can just go to the field and just run around, throw the ball, kick the ball or whatever. Where with like I said, with paintball, most fields are only open on the weekends, so you kind of have like Saturday and Sunday to really get your work in. Or if you have like a big backyard, where it's like open, you can practice back there if you have air and paint, or if you're lucky enough to, be close with like a field owner, like someone who owns the field, he'll let you practice during the week when nobody's there, if you're lucky. But basically the progression from moving from like, beginner up to like pro is you playing tournaments. There is a ranking system in paintball. Just like with like college football, there's Division III, Division II, Division I teams. It's the same thing in paintball. There's you start out, there's Division V, Division IV, 3, 2, semi-pro, and then pro. And there's a ranking system too. Everybody has, it's called pbleagues.com. Everyone has a player profile, and that keeps track of all the tournaments that you play and all the points that you accrue from those tournaments. And depending on how good or bad you do, that there's a point system that starts moving you up as you keep playing tournaments. So you'll start out at beginner or just nothing, and as you move up, you actually have to do well in tournaments, your points will move up, and it'll start your classification will go up.
So I see you repping. Is that your?
Yeah. So this is the store I work at, Matrix Gear.
Hey,
USA.
Shout out to Matrix Gear.
We got Black Friday deals going on Friday through Saturday. Come check them out.
Check them out. So one of the things I think is interesting is that you were there, right, at the World, right?
Yeah, our booth was literally like the pro field was right behind our booth.
And you also got to play a little bit. So how does that work? I don't know if you got to play an actual tournament per se, but like,
I played. So I mean, so World Cup, you have the pro there's more than just the pro division at World Cup, So you have the pro division, you have the semi-pro division, D2, D3, D4, D5, all the way down. So I played in Division 4 X-Ball.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So X-Ball is that timed format.
Okay.
Where you play by the clock, not just how many points you score. So I did D4 X-Ball. And we played. We didn't do that well, unfortunately. But yeah, I got to play, and then and the way as far as like how do you play it, you just have to register. Okay. You have to, whether whoever's team it is or whatever, it's that same website, PB Leagues. You have to go on there, create your team, and then depending on every tournament in the damn world is basically on that website.
And how many? So the question was, most of the people I felt like were obviously from the States. Was there anyone out of country?
Oh, 100%.
Okay, so maybe I didn't
100%.
catch that. who is the? I don't know if you know any pro teams that maybe you can reference, but I was wondering like who's the ones that, because a lot of them I just saw LA and Sacramento.
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes to the NXL Pro Division here in the States, most of the teams are from the States.
But this is the World, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, World Cup. Okay. No, it's definitely World Cup. But I mean, it's called World Cup, but it's still part of that same league. You know what I mean? They just call it World Cup. It's it's the culmination of the entire season. And regardless of, there are teams that come from out of the country. So specifically with like in the Pro Division, it's usually a 20-team division.
Okay.
Throughout the year. But yeah, you have the Russian Legion. They're a pro team. They're straight from Russia.
Okay.
You have Edmonton Impact.
Okay.
From Canada, obviously.
Okay.
A lot of those players, though, they're still going to be American. It's kind of,
right,
they're
of
still
course.
from here.
Sure.
The Russian Legion, all those dudes are straight Russian. They have a couple dudes who I think are from like Colombia, just because of like with the whole COVID thing going on. Sure. It's been hard for them to be able to travel overseas. But they've always been a super strong team in the Pro Division. You have the Latin Saints right now too, who they had some shit going on this year. There was that's like a whole nother thing to get into. But they're the Latin Saints. They're from, I think originally the owner was from Mexico, but then they had like this whole little drama happen with money that they basically had to, like, a new owner had to step in, and I think the flag is like Guatemalan now. But there's that. And then at this event specifically, they added 4 teams from Europe. So you had the Toulouse Tauntauns, who are from France.
Yeah, I saw the Tauntauns.
Yeah,
and they were actually they were putting in some work too.
Yeah, so the Tauntauns are a long time former pro team.
Oh, okay.
They used to play. They've been around for for decades, playing here in the States, and obviously in Europe.
Right.
You had the Toulouse Tauntauns. You had the Lucky 15s, who are from England. You had I think it was Paris Venom. I think, or Carnage Camp Venom, something like that. But they're from Paris, and there was one other team I can't remember the name right now. But yeah, you have teams from around the world, and especially in like the divisionals, which is like semi-pro down. Like this year in semi-pro, we had the Manawatu Titans from New Zealand.
Whoa.
So yeah.
so then my question: is there a difference in play style based off the regions? You know how like in soccer, there's definitely like different ways that different regions will play versus others.
I think there is. Like if going back to like the Russians, they play very aggressive. They have a very aggressive play style, but it's aggressive, but it's also very, how can I say, it's very methodic. They have a very methodic play style of how they play. Because what's actually one thing cool about the Russians is they, like, playing for them, that this is their full-time job. Like, they're straight up, they're representing Russia, like, straight up. They have like their own training facility over there and everything, which not a lot of teams out here in the States have.
Right.
Like your own like they have an indoor training facility for when it's snowing that they train in, so they can still keep playing paintball year round.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
That's
which
awesome.
Out here you don't have that.
Yeah.
Most of these pro teams, they're still practicing at the same fields that I'm practicing at. Like I'll go to Camp Pendleton down in Oceanside, and I'll see Aftermath there, Dynasty. That's the home field for the LA Ironmen. They're playing at the same field that we're playing at.
Okay, so what do you think is the next step that needs to happen? You saw Dynasty take it.
Yeah.
What do you notice that their difference in play style and why they were able? Because the Russians get to play year round, but Dynasty doesn't get that opportunity. But they've been around for a while, I think.
Yeah, most of those guys like Ryan Greenspan, Alex Frazier, Yo Shrow, with the Oliver Lane coming back after a 6-year hiatus, considered literally the GOAT of paintball.
Sure.
These dudes are all in their 40s.
Right. They're
all 39, 40 years old. Blake Yarber, who's one of the younger guys, he's still 35. Arturo Andrade is also, I think he's 36. So a lot of these guys, it just comes down to they just have so much experience. They've been playing for so long that it's just their experience is how they get by. And obviously with playing for 20 plus years, your skills are there. But as far as like what needs to happen next, I mean,
because you work at a shop, right? So
yeah,
you kind of you get to see kind of a different perspective. You get to see the new people trying to get started into this world, you know?
Yeah, it's. I mean, the way to get into paintball is to be straightforward, is just to go out and play. Most literally everyone who started paintball probably started with like a rental gun, getting a rental from whatever field they went to,
Sure.
And then they're like, oh, I want to do this, and they buy their own gear. They start playing rec ball, recreational, and then the rec ball fields are right next to the speedball field. So at some point you look over and you're like, oh, that looks fun, because instead of playing these huge games of like 40 on 40, 30 on 30, you just have these small 5v5 games that are high intensity and high adrenaline.
Sure.
So there's always that migration over of players.
And they don't have comms, right? I noticed that they were shouting.
Yeah.
There's no comms. You don't get to really kind of.
No, you can't wear like a radio or anything.
Oh,
like
that'd be so cool if you did.
It would be. But yeah, all of it. There's paintball is huge on communication. You have to be huge. Winning the game, I for me at least, winning the game itself is 80. Communication is 80% of the game.
Because you don't know, but other people get to hear what you're doing. That's why I feel like, football, you kind of are doing the same thing, but you have your own lingo.
Well, that's the same thing with paintball. Every team has their own codes and call outs for different stuff. There's certain things that are identical in a way, but every team, has their own call outs for like the bunkers on the field. Every bunker on the field has a name. And that's the name of each one is going to be specific to whatever team you're playing on. Everyone has different calls, like I said, except for a select few bunkers are probably going to be the same name just because that's just how they've been throughout time. Every team has their own call outs.
That's interesting. I feel like one of I can only imagine playing the game due to the fact that like you're not only trying to track what's going on in front of like who your target is, I guess, because I think you almost like you're not playing the man. You're kind of playing the zone and like certain targets. You're trying to make sure that the team plays this game.
Yeah.
But one of the things I found was like I said, I was telling you earlier, is like I wonder like if an average person wants to get into this, right? Like, and if they want to go and say, hey, look, this seems so cool, because it really does. Like, you're watching it, and it seems like, man, this is really cool.
Yeah.
But the average person trying to get involved, right, will never get to really experience it out in like a curricular environment, right? You said there is college teams, but like I don't know if that's like more of like a an actual college team.
No, yeah, these are like legitimate like universities that have these teams. There's not a lot, to be honest. It's not like the NCAA and they have
right.
Every university has a paintball team. There's select few, and most of them are going to be in areas that have a hot spot for paintball. California,
sure.
Texas is a huge hot spot for paintball
because they have the land.
Yeah, the land. It's just the population, and Florida is also another one that has a big population for paintball. So yeah, I mean, there's not, it's not like there's college paintball teams all over the country. Unfortunately, that would be great. I think it'd be so cool if they did, because then you kind of have you'd be able to like kind of create like the NCAA of paintball, where you have these college teams and you have these pro teams scouting these college players to eventually bring them up to play pro paintball. So I think that would actually be kind of cool. I think that would be a definite way, maybe a one way, or at least one idea of a way to grow the sport, is maybe kind of have it to where there is like a feeder system.
And do you feel like it's stagnant, or do you feel like the sport is slowly but surely growing?
That's a difficult one to call, really. In terms of growing, I think the sport is growing. Maybe not, definitely not at the level that all these other sports are going to grow at, just because it is a very niche sport. And unfortunately, to play this sport, you have to have the finances for it.
Yeah.
That's the sucky part about it. You have to have.
What is this? The cost of this? What does this gun cost?
So this one, retail, the gun itself, if I would just buy like a stock color, like let's say if it was just an all red, it'd be $1,600.
Oh,
just the gun itself.
Get excited.
Yeah, because mine is the red speckle edition, the little special anodes that they have on it. This is actually $1,800 retail.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just the gun itself. That's excluding the hopper and the tank.
Okay, the tank, but that's just.
This is $200.
That's $200.
$200 for just the tank.
And okay, so obviously you don't have to buy new tanks, right? You just
no. So yeah, you can rehydro them. Usually tanks have a 15-year lifespan.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, and every 5 years you have to get them rehydro, basically like certified that they're safe to use again.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. So not anymore. If you dig on YouTube, you can. There is a video actually.
Holy snap!
So there's a video of a guy during a game. This is old. This is like back in the day. I think this was still when 10 Man was around. There's a video on YouTube. I forgot what the name of it is. You can look it up though. A guy off the break, horn blows. He runs into his bunker. He dives. The tank explodes. Like literally explodes off the gun. Shoots back. Hits his teammate behind him and breaks his ankle. Because there's 4,500 psi of pressure in the tank, and it's outputting at about like 500 psi. So there's a lot of pressure in here. So before they didn't have the the safety stuff.
Do you have to refill that?
Yeah, just about. So the air stations you refill after just about every point, really.
Oh, okay. That's my question, right?
You come off after every point. The air stations are right there next to the pits during a tournament. You just refill it.
And that's where you refill, right here?
Yeah, right here, the fill nipple.
Oh, I got
it. And these little 2 silver pieces on the sides, these are the burst sticks. This is like the safety side of it, where if the tank overpressurizes, instead of it just blowing up, these are designed to blow. And it'll essentially let the air out.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, tank $200 though. This regulator, just the regulator alone, is $180. So you're at basically close to $400 just right here.
And the feeder, what makes this feeder special?
It's just the technology inside of it. So the Spire 4 uses like a sensor on the inside, just right in the nose piece of it, that as soon as you start firing the gun, it essentially senses the shooting, and that is what tells it to start feeding into the gun itself. This is another $200 to $250 right here. So all around, you're looking at about just right here alone, like $2,200.
And how important is the actual equipment though? Like how important is like your actual gear? Like your
like what I'm wearing?
Yes. Outside of goggles and jeez, I thought you could just throw on some sweats.
Realistically, you could. The gear, like the jersey and the pant itself, is really not important, because they don't give you any tactical advantage or stuff like that. The part I would say is important is your protective gear, like your knee pads and your elbow pads, so when you're diving or sliding, whatever, you're not wrecking your stuff, Mask. We always tell people, like at the store, especially when we have new people coming in. They're a lot of people they're on budgets, and they're trying to get into the sport. And, we try to help them out as best as we can. So because at the end of the day, the more people playing paintball, the more it's going to grow.
Of course,
we always say grow the sport, because we want people to play, and we want people to feel included.
Right.
We don't, and that I think that's one way to grow the sport is. If you're in it already, don't include other people. You have a lot of times you have these, when we're practicing on the field, you'll have those rec ballers come over because they want to get like their first game and try to play. And a lot of times you'll notice they're timid. They're kind of scared. They're kind of waiting, or they're just like sitting off on the sidelines. Or even when they're playing, they're kind of just sitting there. They're hiding. They don't want to get shot and stuff like that. So we'll start like telling them like, hey, like go for it, like hey, come over here. Especially when it's kids, right? Because kids they're the most scared ones.
Yeah, dude.
So they'll just sit there hiding, trying not to get hit. Yeah.
Paintballs per second. Y'all like,
and that's slow. It used to be we're at 10 now. It used to be we called uncapped semi, which is basically meant as fast as you can pull the trigger is as fast as as fast as the gun can shoot. So it used to be like people were shooting like 15 plus per second. Then we went from 15 to 12.5 during the PSP era, and now with NXL we're down to 10.2. But yeah, like it's growing.
Kids getting like, and again, I think I asked you earlier. I was like, so what hurts more, like a airsoft or like a paintball? Like a paintball. And
I think so.
And these kids are getting just dinked. Oh no, yeah. Daddy, I don't want to do this no. Nah,
yeah.
Take me out.
Well, and that's kind of what we try to do. Like when we have like these kids come into the store with their parents, stuff like that, and they watch the videos and they want to start playing, or they went one time, and sometimes some of them they haven't even played and they want to get gear, and we'll ask them like, have you ever played? And they'll be like, no. And they'll be like, go play first, because we actually had this happen a while back in our store. A dad and his son came in and he dropped like $5-6 grand on equipment for him and his kid. They went one time, the kid got shot, and he was like, I don't want to play ever again. So he spent like $5-6 grand on all this stuff, and he basically had to sell it all for a loss because they never went. So that's why whenever people come in, they want to buy all their gear and stuff like that, we're like, go play first. Don't just spend your money on a sport you've never played. At least try it.
Is there any similar sport to help prepare you? Like, I feel like for every sport there is kind of like this kind of introductory, like you want to play baseball? All right, let's start with catch. Throw a ball at you, catch. Right? You know what I'm saying? You want to play tennis? Like, all right, let's go play the handball game.
Yeah.
Like you get a wall, you just throw a ball and bounce off. Like, there's some sense of just kind of growing into something, right?
Yeah. So with paintball, there wasn't really. Now there is. We have.
Like, let's take you to the gun range.
Can't shoot someone though.
It's like, let's just go and shoot people. All right, let's get it. All right, you want to play paintball? Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, you can play Grand Theft Auto, maybe.
Hey!
Maybe that's one way. But so they came out recently with these things. They're called gel blasters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's basically like little Orbeez.
Oh.
So and the gun, they're like little toy guns. They look like Nerf guns, and they shoot the little Orbeez. You have to put them in water to get them to where they're supposed to be. That's kind of what right now is like a good way to get kids into it.
Okay, now listen, look, if I was smart, right? Okay, I'm not. But I'm thinking like, okay, we could start a kid league. Get these Orbeez, to just like every round, damn. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that'd be kind of cool.
They actually did it. Like, so like at events, like at World Cup, they had this little inflatable arena, like a little tiny baby one that they did. So for kids to go in and start playing and shooting at each other. So like I said, that's kind of the one way to get into it, we've had kids come in before where they're too young to play yet, but we're like, oh, like, why don't you get a joke? Like, we'll tell the parents, hey, if they can't play paintball yet, or if they're scared, why don't you get them a gel blaster first? They can play with that, and we've had them like, we'll go outside and we'll like shoot them in the back with it or something to see if they can handle it. Some of them will be cool with it, and so the parents will buy the gel blaster.
You'd be like, hey, come to the back. Let me show you, okay?
We had that one time. We had this guy. He's a baller. Like, he plays a lot, and he was trying to get his nephew into, or his nephew saw and wanted to get into playing paintball.
Right.
So he took him to the store one day, and he was buying gear and stuff like that, and the nephew wanted to play, and he'd never played before, and the uncle's basically like, are you sure? Like, can you handle it? And he was like, yeah. And then I asked, I kind of started it because I was like, have you ever been shot before? And the kid was like, no. And then the uncle was like, let me shoot you. So he got his gun.
Assume the position.
Yeah. So we went out. We went outside into the parking lot, and we just had the kid. We gave him a mask, obviously. Safety first. At the end of the day, 100% safety first. That's why even like with this, I still have a barrel cover on the gun.
Because you don't know if there's one in the chamber.
Yeah, I know there isn't and everything, but it's all about safety. Sure. And that's kind of why, just real quick, when I said, when we have people trying to buy their gear, we always tell people, get a good mask. If there's one thing you don't cheap out on, buy a good mask. Protect your fucking face. Because a paintball, you will lose an eye. You will literally lose an eye.
Sure.
If you get shot in the face. So that's one thing. But yeah, like I said, we gave that kid a mask. We took him outside to the parking lot. He took off his shirt. And we literally just had him like run from like one corner of the parking lot to like 20 feet, just run. And his uncle just blasted him as he ran across the fucking parking lot. And oh my God, it was great. He hit him like 5-6 times. The kid was like, okay, I'm okay, just trying to hold his crying in.
That's lit. Hey, look. Hey, this is not for the weak. There's no other sport that's kind of like that. Obviously, you have the kind of, I know we were talking about this earlier, like kind of the rivalry between the airsoft and the paintball community. But looking at the paintball community, one thing I think is really interesting is that there's this like huge game that people play. Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar, like this like game that's like on Nintendo. It's like this paint game, and you just like color like the oh man, Sarah, you know what I'm talking about? Splatoon, I think it is called. But you get the paint the ground and just try to. It's just a huge Nintendo game.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking. I don't remember what the name of it though, but I get what you're talking about.
And obviously that appeals to kids, and I feel like that's why so many young kids want to get into it. But it hurts when you get really shot.
It does. But I mean, there's plenty of kids playing the sport. We have kids who are 13, 14, 15 years old playing the sport. Like we just had and the WCPPL, which is the West Coast Players Paintball League, literally the biggest league on the West Coast of the states. In D5, the team that took the series championship is called SQD the Kids.
Oh, really?
And most of them are literally 15, 16, 17 years old, and they won the series. And you're talking about, you could be D5 and still be there's 30-year-old guys,
right?
You know what I'm saying? So it has nothing to do with age. It's all about your ranking. But like I said, you had these kids playing and they won the series. So there's people from all age groups playing up down to 13, 14 years old up to I think in the pro league, San Antonio X Factor. I don't think he played Cup. I didn't really watch, and he hasn't been playing that much. But Alex, their owner, Alex Martinez, he's 55 years old, I think. Dang. So yeah, the age range is crazy, and I think that's why I like paintball so much, because the wide age gap of just the player pool. You can be super young and or super old, and you can go play.
That's what I think. That's a good thing. I think I was going to ask you. This kind of will lead us to the next chapter of things, right? Soccer and this, it feels is definitely your athleticism obviously plays a factor in this, but not so much. As long as you can point and shoot, and you have some sense of again the experience that comes with it. Yeah, your experience tends to lean more than your athletic ability in this particular sport. Obviously, I feel like there's a balance to that. But
yeah, I mean, definitely, you like I said, you still have to be athletic, no matter that's a give, no matter what. But I think the size of the field you play on, it definitely plays a factor, and I think that maybe the longevity.
Sure.
Where soccer, football, you're running 100. You're running 100-yard field constantly, right? Whereas in paintball, it's a 150 by 120 foot field, and sometimes off the break, you're running maybe 30 feet. So you're not constantly running back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So you don't have to. You still have to be athletic, but it's like you said. There's a lot more than just being athletic that goes along with it.
What do you think that you kind of wish that paintball had that soccer? Soccer obviously had.
Availability.
Because you mentioned that only 2 days of the week.
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday. Sometimes Fridays.
Why? What's the restriction on that? Is there a
money? It's financial.
What, you just keep a field open, people will pay, no? What's the...
Yes and no.
How many people do you need to staff a game?
I mean, realistically, you need 1-2 refs max. But the thing is, right, it's okay,
the lights maybe?
Well, I mean, not just that, lights, but wherever you live or wherever I live, right? I live in Rialto. Sure. I can walk 10 minutes and there's a park.
Sure.
Right? I can literally go within 5 to 10 minutes, even a drive, 5 to 10 minute drive. I can go and find a park.
Right.
And I don't need anybody there to be able to play soccer or football or basketball. I can do it by myself. Whereas, and there's hundreds of parks everywhere.
Right.
Right? Hundreds all over the place. You can drive probably every 5 miles, you'll probably see a park.
That's facts.
Whereas paintball, there isn't that. There isn't hundreds and hundreds of paintball fields all over the country. From here alone, you have 4, right? You have one in Paris, you have one in Lake Elsinore, you have one in Corona, you have one in Moore Park, which is by Simi Valley. You have another one which is called Combat. That's by Six Flags up in Valencia, and then you have Camp Pete down in Oceanside. So those are 6 fields, but the closest one is still 35 minutes away. You know what I mean?
And you need what, on a because all you guys are different levels. That's what I think is interesting, right? Because you mentioned that it doesn't matter your age, you can always join.
Yeah.
So I feel like this game has that leg up, because if you don't, you can play with a 13-year-old and you have a 50-year-old, and they still can be competitive against each other in some way, shape, or form. I mean, that should kind of give you, unlike soccer where like basketball, I guess you're right. You can play with old heads, you know what I mean? But I guess you're right. I guess there is some sense of like the accessibility of just like, hey, I can go there right now and then just be able to hit the field and go and pick up a game.
And like I said, and it comes down to the equipment too. It 100%, right? Like all I need for, like, if I want to go play basketball right now at the park, I don't need even basketball shoes. I can go in my jeans if I wanted to. All I need to do is go to Big 5 and buy a $10 basketball, and that basketball will probably last me a year.
Sure.
Right? And that's all I need. I don't need to buy anything else.
But if you're that invested, then you obviously are going to be actively looking to play, right? And so I feel like you do have, I mean, just the cost incentive of you getting one, you having this, like, so this is an example, right? I play this game called Flesh and Blood. It's this card game, right?
Yeah.
And the deck alone is like $500-$600. Like, just to play a 40-card deck is almost like, it's a good substantial amount of equipment that you get with the deck. You have to bring, you have your hero and all that. That's like almost a grand, like in total. Now, I'm not talking about 2-3 G's you're dropping here, but I will drive to Riverside to go play a game on a Saturday. I will go up to Pasadena to go do a game out there. So like it gives you, because you're invested and you have other players who will come because they're all invested, and they make a good way of making it happen, especially because there's an event search list. You just search and say, these are the events that's happening. People will show up and play. Yeah. Right? So do you think that people wouldn't show up? Do you think?
No, I know people would. That's actually kind of something that we've been trying to do. So, I mean, being open during the week, it's not unheard of. You know what I mean? It's not like it never happens. Like
sure.
Like in Texas, right? There's a field called PB Fit, in Waxahachie, Texas, and I know, right? It's fucking, what a name. But they actually have night games. Wednesdays and Fridays, I think from like 6 to 9, they have night games. They have lights set up above the field with wires running across, and they run night games, and people show up. So having it during
Nick,
the week,
would you do that? Would you
100%?
You would show 100%. Up like almost like if I mean, obviously you work a job and you work nights, but a daytime thing, like, you would make it happen. I feel like there obviously it's a risk.
Yeah.
Obviously you're a business, and you have to make sure that the economy doesn't look very good at the moment right now. But I'm just saying that in terms of like all that aside, I know it's reality, but all that aside, you do have a loyal team that's obviously invested.
But even some of the guys who are invested, they're still like scraping by to play. Like one of my guys on my team, he just to be able to play on Sundays, he shows up to the field early to help them set up the bunkers, like lay them out, hammer them in, blow them out, because they'll give him free entry for helping out. So that's kind of his way of saving himself $40 so he can still play and afford paint. Because you have to think, when, like I said, going back to the whole, basketball or whatever, I can just go to the park and play. Even like during the week, I'm still gonna, you're gonna be spending like $60. $60-$70.
Yeah, see, a game for me is like $5.
Exactly, because you have to buy your entry, which is at least $30-$40, and a case of paint is going to cost you at least $30 too. So you're spending $70. So let's say you were to go like
so that's $200 a weekend every day. That's a lot.
Just about. Yeah.
I can see the paint in itself could be an issue.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like you said, like going every time I'd want to go, I'd have to pay, like, let's say, like, if I lived in Texas and I had that PB Fit place right around the corner. If I wanted to go Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Wednesday, Friday for night games, Saturday and Sunday for the normal stuff.
What's the incentive then? Like,
it's the love for the sport.
Who won? The Dynasty, what did they get?
So for this specific,
no shade, just
yeah, no. So for them, I mean, I think I mentioned
like a prize tournament or like.
I mean, so they won the series championship, so they get a nice big trophy.
Sure.
For the series, they get the trophy for winning World Cup. They get obviously their medals, and they get they won, I think, $40,000.
Yeah, they don't have enough.
See, yeah, and now you have to think, And
that's divided between all these players.
That's between 12 players. If they give some to the coaching staff, and you also have to think this could also be paying for their flights, their hotels.
I don't think so. That's not how it works. Brand deals normally that they'll make money off of just people buying their brand, right? Like, or their sponsors and stuff will cover all that.
Not necessarily. Not
you can't take prize money away from like your actual.
No. I'm not saying
that 40G's got to go to at least the players. Like,
no, it does go to the players, but I'm saying what I mean is like, okay, like I'm one of the players, right? Like, we won $40,000. What is that roughly like?
2 G's maybe
$3,000 a person.
Sure.
So that $3,000, yeah, it goes to me, but I'm using that $3,000 to pay for the expenses that it took me to get here.
Wait, so your team doesn't cover that?
Not all teams.
But you're a pro team though. I think
right, but remember, like I said, this isn't a sport where you're making money. Paintball is a sport where you are literally doing it because you love to play the sport. There was a saying. I don't know if it's the exact saying, but my manager at my job told me that one of the league owners, literally, he asked him, he's like, he asked them, what's the quickest way to make $1 million in paintball? Start with $2 million.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, it's not a big money sport. So a lot of these pro teams, yes, they have sponsorships, right? Like let's look at like Tampa Bay Damage. Right, so they're sponsored by Lux DLX. They shoot this gun. They're sponsored by Bunker Kings, which they wear their masks, the pod packs. They shoot the hoppers that they make, the protective gear and all that stuff. They're sponsored by Social Paintball. I think they make their jerseys, and obviously they're sponsored by GI Sports. They shoot their paint. So they have all these sponsorships, but that's it. They're getting their gear paid for, but who's paying the players? Nobody.
But okay. So interesting. Maybe there's some sense of just me trying to understand a little bit more about the world. I think it is a tricky thing then, because if you're not,
a lot of the players, they have jobs, like regular jobs, and and a lot of these guys, I'm not saying
the Russians.
Yeah, well, yeah, like I said, unless you play for a team that has a millionaire owner, like Edmonton Impact, Houston Heat, they're owned by Randy Sarge Smith. He actually he's a millionaire because he made his money working for UPS. So he actually pays his players, the Russians. And I'm not saying that players don't get paid at all, but they get paid in different ways.
Sure.
Not just instead of just me handing you a check for like 40 whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like if you want to go and I saw it was one of the things. I think this is the final thing we wanted to talk about. You mentioned this controversy going on with the other team, and one of the things I noticed is that these are rugged individuals. Like I see them flipping people off. They're like,
these dudes are. So paintball, we're just a bunch of degenerates, right? We're rejects of the other sports. We're just like, hey, we can still go play this sport and be successful with it.
I mean, I didn't say it, but
it's the truth, and it kind of like going with what you said. Like there's that drama going on with that team, the Latin Saints. So they didn't earn their way into the pro division. They bought their spot. So a team, I think it was TMG Outlaws. They were a former pro team. They were just not doing great the past couple seasons, and it was costing them a lot of money too, right? They sold their spot, and the Latin Saints, the owner came in and he bought the spot. And it was an owner. I think his name was Diego Santos. He was like a millionaire dude from Mexico. He owned restaurants and stuff like that.
Okay.
Drug money.
Hey.
That was the rumor, that he was involved in the cartel and stuff like that. But he basically came in as like kind of a way to shake up the sport, where he was paying players like straight up like I think he literally contracted all the players and they were all paid. Like I think he got like Alex Goldman, Kyle Spica, who plays for Dynasty now. Who else did he get? Justin Rabikoff from Edmonton Impact. He picked up Corey Hall. He picked up like the best players in the league to build this superstar team. And all of them were paid. I think like Alex Goldman, I think he tied the record for highest paid player, $100,000, which was the rumor. Yeah.
Talking about $40,000 prize winnings, and it's $100. Okay, continue. I'm really curious to see like what's the return here.
So there is no return. it's like I said, you're just doing it because you like it that much.
Well, there must be. It has to be a return because it may not be a financial, but it has to be something. Like you're doing it because either you want the clout, you're doing it because you want to just say like I was the best at this at one point.
Well, I mean, yeah, of course you're doing it because you want to be considered the best player in the world.
But no. Why is the owner doing that? That's the question, right?
Because he wants to be. He wants to build a successful pro team.
Okay, continue.
You know what I mean?
So how does this turn out here?
So he was paying. He got all these guys, contracted them. Like I said, Alex Goldman got the highest paid. I think he was getting like $100,000. Kyle Spica, Corey Hall, Justin Rabakov, all these dudes were getting paid. So it was like they had two lines. They had basically the superstar line, which was these paid players, and then they called it the Hispanic line, basically, which is like the lower just his actual Hispanic players, because they were called the Latin Saints. You can't, so it was kind of trying to still say like, hey, we have these superstars, but we still have Latino players on the team. Sure. So it was a real shakeup in the division. So they played the first event and they took second place.
Oh, yeah.
So okay. It was
they put in some work.
Yeah, they put in work.
And did the Latin people ever play, or they would just?
No, they did. They did.
Okay.
They kind of they rotated the lines and stuff. Like obviously, the pro guys, the real legitimate pro guys were getting a majority of the spins, but they were still playing. So the way the NXL is structured, you have 6 total events. You have 4 major events plus 2 minor events.
Okay.
Every pro team has to play at least 1 minor event, and the second event came around. It was a minor in Texas. The Latin Saints didn't show up, so everyone was kind of like, "Whoa, like what's going on here?" Everyone expected them to be here. They were actually registered to be there, and they didn't show up. So the event went by, and then people kept asking like, "What's going on? What's going on? What's going on?" Basically, what it came down to is the players who were supposed to get paid, they never got paid. So it was a whole debacle of and the thing with that it comes down to is I don't paint because it's such a small sport. You like as far as like contracts and stuff like that. A lot of people don't know how these contracts work with these players.
Of course,
are they signing actual documents for that they're saying like, hey, sure, I'm gonna play for this team and stuff for this season, or is it just kind of all like a verbal agreement and stuff like that?
Shake hands.
Yeah, exactly. In I guess
room.
Yeah, I guess it kind of came down to that with the Latin Saints. Is like there was no official agreements. A lot of it was just like all word of mouth. Like, hey, I guess they were saying like something about like the guy was gonna send them like prepaid cards and stuff like that with like and he was gonna like load the money onto there, and that's how they were gonna get paid. But apparently some of the players like never got paid. And so it kind of there was just this huge just downfall. It started with Justin Rabakov. He left the team and he ended up going back to Edmonton Impact. Then another player left, and literally all the superstar guys just bounced.
Yeah, they took flight.
Yeah.
They were only there for the money.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, yeah, and you
can't
can't blame them in a sport
I don't.
In a sport where you don't get paid to play as a professional athlete.
But that don't make sense. You dropping 5Gs, 4Gs on like these stuff. You're dropping so much. The cost of entry is so high.
Yeah.
I feel like there has to be a better way for them to see some type of return, because one of the things here is that like watching the game again, seeing it's really good. But I also noticed that like just again looking at the comments, a lot of them people are frustrated by the just how hard it is for them to just follow it. The internet and everything's dropping, and they can't really get to see And so I think that marketing would really help.
Oh, 100% marketing would help, and just enjoy, like I said, when like I said, players, they don't get paid financial like money, like straight up cash, but a lot of them get paid. So like I know like a couple teams, instead of them, a lot of the guys work in the industry too.
Right.
That's kind of like how they get paid, is they'll work in the industry. Or like I know a lot of teams, they'll give their players like the sponsors. What they'll do, or actually this is kind of how the players themselves make their money. It's not even the team, it's the players themselves. They'll buy guns from their sponsor and then resell them, and that's kind of their way. Or like if you look at a lot of teams, so except a couple teams, I think it's like depending on what the sponsor is, if you go online and try to like, let's say your favorite player is like from San Diego Aftermath. Your favorite player is Joe Barrett, right? He plays for Aftermath. If you go online, whether it's like if you go on JT, San Diego Aftermath website or just any website that sells paintball products, you cannot buy his jersey. His jersey is not for sale. The only way to buy the jersey with his name on it is directly from him.
Interesting.
So what they'll do is the players themselves they'll go to like JT in this instance, their sponsor, and they'll buy a select amount of jerseys with their name on it,
so that they can have the ability to at least have some return from the brand.
Exactly.
Social media would make them a lot of money too. If I'm telling you, it's marketing here. I feel like if they had a sense of just, especially YouTube, like I feel like they can blow up on YouTube, especially through like shorts. I'm very this is an interesting world that you have introduced, and I think it's really cool to kind of see how it's been going. But it's really discerning to see that like it's $100 to play at a field. Like
it is, trust me, and we ourselves say the same thing. Like we'll like if you're like in the inner circle, you'll look at the cost of playing to like go play a tournament, go play in NXL, right? And it's so fucking expensive.
Yeah, like just to get that in perspective, everyone, because I know a lot of people are like, well, that's not bad. I mean, okay, look, if you make $20 an hour, right? Like that's a full day's of work.
Yep.
And if you go there once a week, then you just spend a whole day's of work just to go there, just to be able to shoot. That's not including the equipment and the rest of that stuff. Yeah. So if you try to go there 5 days a week, then you just spent your entire paycheck without paying food, water, utilities. Yeah,
I'll give a realistic breakdown of how much
that is real life.
If I didn't work for Matrix here, I'm thank God I work because it's a work trip essentially. So I have a lot. My room and board is covered.
Sure.
So it makes it so much easier. But if I didn't work for Matrix here and I wanted to go play a World Cup, right? My flight alone, I flew out. I could have driven, but I was like, I want to fly.
Sure.
Like so I chose to fly. I had to pay for that myself. That was, I think my round trip ticket was like $350.
Yeah, dude.
To Florida. Just my flight.
Dude.
Alone. If I had my room and board covered, thankfully. If I didn't, if you get like the whole team in an Airbnb.
You were there for like a week and a halek, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's like $200, $100 a night.
Yeah, but I mean, most players they won't be there for a week
because this is Florida, right? So it depends what part. What part are you in?
We were in Kissimmee, which is just outside of Orlando, right where Disney World is.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's so. Have you been to Florida?
No. I haven't.
Okay, so the area that we play is it's right across the street from the Gaylord Palms Resort.
Yo, Gaylord is real life.
Yeah, so it's straight right across the street. So let's say you get an Airbnb with like eight like you're 8 guys, right? You get an Airbnb.
Bruh.
That's like what? I don't know, like $1,500, $2,000 for 5 days maybe.
Yeah,
split that by 8.
If you cram all 8 of them in one hotel room,
yeah, split that by 8. You're still spending what, maybe $200-$300 per player to pay for the Airbnb.
Sure.
Right. You got to pay your food for the weekend for the 5 days that you're going to be there. I don't know. Let's say $50 a day just for your food.
Right.
If you need to rent a vehicle to be able to drive around.
No, look. Listen, I get the point.
You know what I'm saying?
It's brutal. I think that's why my question here is that like, I wonder the manufacturing to manufacture the equipment. I imagine how hard it is because if I'm building that gun does not look like it's easy to build. Yeah. It doesn't look like you can just 3D print that, right? Like it's one of those things that really feels as if like, man, to wrap paint to where it's enough to like explode, like, you know, like, oh shoot. I'm wondering like what that whole prospect looks like. I'm wondering if you really, really, really try to figure out like, okay, the cost of business, because that's where it comes to.
Yeah.
The cost of business, like the cost of just to be able to get you guys get this stuff going. I imagine these businesses are not like pooling a ton of money unless you have etched out, you know, yourself in there. But luckily, one of the things that like soccer that doesn't have, which is the beauty of kind of like, I guess the good thing for the players, but not so good for the business, is that you only need one pair of cleats and another soccer ball. You're rarely going back for repeat customers. Yeah. But like this paint, like you can like make you don't really need to buy another gun or per se, but like, you know, you're going to have to buy new gear at some point in time. You're going to have to buy a lot of paint that's reusable. And other sports, you just don't have that. You don't have this reusable, even tennis balls. You really don't even need to buy more tennis balls technically.
The difference between sport like this paintball and like other sports, it mainly comes down to how many people are playing. You know what I mean? So like you said, like right, like with soccer, right? I can a soccer ball will last me a whole year.
Sure.
And so will a pair of cleats. So I'm not going back to the store every single weekend to buy stuff. So it's not like they're making money off me. But for every one of me, there's like another 500 guys that are still going to go to that field, to that store to buy the same thing. It's just the sheer volume, right? For every every 200, 300, 400, whatever, 100 amount of soccer players there's maybe like one paintballer.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that, I think that is a huge thing of of the financial aspect too of.
But you don't. I mean, even it's the business of soccer only really makes something because of the world. I mean, because of just how international it is.
Yeah.
Because if you're a poor kid in some third world country, you can always, with your bare feet.
Yeah. It's accessible. It's accessible to anybody. You don't need money to play most sports.
And I'm curious, how much is that the gel thing you were talking about?
The gel, like just a basic gel blaster, like the little one that looks like a little pistol kind of. It's like $60.
But if I'm trying to like if I want to create like a little league, because even football is like pads.
Yeah,
like it's even football is a little expensive.
It is, yeah.
But you do have like that reusable value with football. Football is like, hey, your kid's too big. All right, look, you know what I mean? You can go to a store and say, hey, I'll trade that in for something else, or like they'll be able to resell it in a week.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like it's like that. You don't feel like you.
The real cost, like if you want to, like the best cost effective way to play tournaments is like, at least for paintball, to where you're not spending a lot of money, is to play your regional events. That's the most accessible way to play tournament paintball without going to an NXL event. NXL, you're just there. I'm not saying NXLs aren't great. It's an amazing event. It's awesome. You get to see you get to watch pro players and stuff like that. But the real way to kind of get that, I guess, that return on investment as a player yourself, if you're not a professional, is to play your regional events. Because obviously if you're playing local, you don't have to worry about your room and board. You don't have to worry about travel and stuff like that. The cost of entry is significantly lower than playing an NXL event, and the actual prize money is more than you would get at NXL.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So like the WCPPL, right? The entry fee for Division 4 Expo at an NXL event, I think it was $2,300 just for your entry. To be so your team can play.
You were Division 4.
Division 4.
You did not. Your team did not drop $2,300, right?
$2,300 just to be able to play the event. That doesn't cover our paint either. We still have to buy paint. I think we went through 30 cases, $35 a case.
Yo.
Yeah.
The mic dropped there.
Yeah. Plus your ID card. If you haven't played an NXL event, it's $60.
Yo,
that's for the whole season. But I'm saying if you only play World Cup, you have to drop $60 to get your ID card for that one event.
$2,300.
Yeah, it was 300.
How many rounds you get to play? You have to tell me at least that.
You get 3 games. You get your 3 prelim games.
Three matches.
Yeah, minimum.
It's minimum.
Yeah. Bruh. If you move on, then yeah,
every match you won, you get to continue.
Yeah. That's why I say play your regional events. Like we have the WC.
Do you remember how much was soccer? Do you remember?
Per year?
Is that because it's a year, right? It's a season.
Yeah, I mean,
what is soccer like? Do your parents ever tell you?
No, but I kind of, now being older, I kind of have an idea of how much they would pay realistically. So cleats?
No, like for the season.
Oh, like to travel and stuff like that, or do you mean like
to like join the because doesn't it cost to join?
Yeah. So that stuff I don't know. I want to say I remember like when
you did play competitively.
I did. Yeah. If I go with like just like high school wise, it cost us nothing.
Right.
I think it cost us. I think we had to buy like our team packages, which was like
you just tried out, you made it, and then you got to.
Yeah, you had to buy your team packages, which was like the bag, the sweater, the pants, the jerseys, and all that stuff. I think that was like $450. That was for the full season. And then after that, obviously, you don't have to pay anything because the school pays for everything. Realistically, right. Outside of it, like travel ball and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm
yeah, I mean, even that was cheaper. I think like to be on a team for a season. It's like, you have to pay like your team fees and stuff like that. I think it was maybe like $1,000 for the whole entire season.
And I mean, you're playing what, like 12 games, probably more?
More.
Really?
Yeah, because we have like our league, which was the Coast Soccer League. That was like just your normal league, like NFL. But then we also had tournaments. Like we traveled to like nationals. We would travel like to Arizona for other tournaments. Like we would travel like to Northern California. That cost a little bit more, but the cost in comparison to paintball was nothing. It was probably maybe like $1,000 for the entire.
That puts a lot of pressure too, man. That's brutal. That puts a lot of pressure because you just like. And the question here, because it keeps coming back, like, for what? You know, because you're like,
I'm telling you, man, it's just because you like doing it. This is one of those little things where you do it simply because you want to do it.
Dude, in the card game, they did $1 million Worlds tournament.
Yeah,
it's a card game.
Yeah,
and paintball has been around much longer than this card game. It's only gonna be around for like maybe 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah,
and it just shows that like okay, and it's just cardboard, so it's just like you can a cardboard costs $100, which the cardboard 5 cents probably, but just because of the value that we put on the card makes it so that you can make this just insane amount of on top of the money that you would make printing out the card. But for you guys, it's actually takes real technology to make this, to actually do this.
Like I'm telling you, man, you do it just because you like it's such a weird concept to think like you're gonna spend all this money and you're not even gonna get half of it back. Like, you're spending this money for fucking nothing.
There has to be something. It's definitely an investment in the future. Your hope is that, like, it will grow. Well,
that's why I say it goes back to the
cost will get lower because of more people are playing. So, hopefully, they don't... Because I know if you're a business, you're thinking one or two things. You're either trying to... Again, I know your philosophy, luckily, and your manager is about growing the business.
Yeah.
But... It feels as if like if you're not in a position to help grow, you can't really get mad at that because you're kind of like thinking to yourself like, okay, I don't want to like squeeze all this money out of my players, but at the same time, like, shoot, man, I gotta I'm trying to make some money here because this is a business, and so it's really you're playing this really delicate dance. That's why I feel like for us we call it local game stores, right? These card shops that I've been going to since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And one of my card shops, shout outs to Four Colors. They're near car shop here, and they got broken into, and literally he has like these like a safe for a door, right? And they like just busted his windows and just came in and stole his comics and stole like all this other stuff. Like
we had a break in a while back at our store too.
Yeah,
they stole like I think they stole maybe like $70,000 worth of product.
Yeah, jeez.
The crazy part about it is we got it all back. We got every single gun that they stole back.
Okay, I have to understand how.
So we have cameras at the store, obviously. We this particular night, for some reason, I don't remember what happened, but for some reason our alarm did not go off.
Oof.
What happened and what saved us was the pizza guy in the same parking lot was still there. No, sorry, he wasn't there, but these dumbasses, once they went into our store, they got greedy and tried to rob the pizza place. His alarm went off. He got on the cameras, told his son to call 911. And when the guys, the thieves ended up leaving and they hopped on the freeway, as soon as they hopped on the freeway, there was a cop like right there waiting for them. And what we got really lucky is because I guess what my boss told me is that the sergeant on duty that night typically does not let his officers engage in police chases, but this time he did. So he gave permission to the cop to chase after them and initiate a pursuit, and they ended up crashing before the cop kind of caught up to him. They bailed out. The guys got away, but they left everything inside the van.
Yo, listen, that's in this, and it seems like in this business, that's almost like shop ending, like 70 G.
No, $70,000 for a shop is a lot of money.
No, I mean you're like.
That's a lot of money for a shop.
That's almost a year. I mean, that's not almost a year, but like that's a good 3 months or 5 months.
It's a big chunk.
It's a big like loss right there.
Especially for a small shop.
Yeah.
Small because even though our shop is we're able to reach a really big audience.
Sure.
You know, we get orders from across the nation, across the world. We've gotten orders from like Europe, you know.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's the marketing game, dude.
Yeah.
Marketing is gonna do if the NXL can is just tweak their marketing, put some more of that. I mean, if they're charging people, they're squeezing their players $2,300. Like if you and I get it. It's a big event. You have 12 referees. You got casters. You have cameramen. You have vendors. Like I get it.
That's 12 referees just for the pro field.
Okay, I get it.
Right?
I get it.
I think a lot of people don't realize too is they have so much overhead. That's what it is.
I get
it's the overhead.
But if you're gonna do it, you gotta get the marketing. You have to get like not just the marketing of getting people there. Who cares, right? But just the social media influence. Because literally, I mean, you know, if you can get a good shot and have that hit viral, you'll have 12, you know, I just saw this dude just got light up. I want right? Like, you're going to want to jump in and light some kids up, too. You don't want to be like, yo, put me in, coach. Like, you want to be in that type of environment. So I think that the NXL has some potential there because I watched 6 hours of this, right?
Yeah.
And I got to really get a big understanding of just like, yo, this is really interesting. After the first hour, after the first few games, I was like, oh, okay, this is, all right, I can watch this, right? And by watching it, kind of for me, it just became like, it was just hard to kind of follow because one of the things I notice about it too when you watch it, you're not seeing the same players continually play. You're seeing one player, one team playing another team, and then right after you see a different team playing another team, and right after you see the same team you just saw the other time go play. They're like swapping, in there because they're trying to keep because there's so many rounds you have to play, and they're cleaning each other up. They're gonna get the paint off of them or whatever.
Yeah, they play in split decks.
Yeah, and so they're kind of continuing that progression. So it was really hard to be like, oh shit, oh okay, great. And obviously, if it's your first time watching, you're still trying to get a better understanding. But man. What I'm telling you guys, I know it's probably not fun as a player, but like that 1-on-1, the 2-on-2s was for me as a first time looking at this, I've never seen this in my life. Yeah. That was really cool because that was like, okay, there, and of course like you're because you can see what's happening. It's easy, and the casters now know after the fucking initial rush, and they're like, okay, so this is what's going on. But
100% like the 1-on-1s, like the low body situations are the super like exciting part,
right?
Because it's like it's those game changer moments, right? Where you're like, you know, a 1-on-1 and this guy just snaps this dude perfectly, just clocks him right in the face, and they needed that point to, you know, tie the game or that gives them that 1 point lead with like a minute left on the clock. You know, it's those low body situations that are always the more exciting versus the 5-on-5, and it just kind of flows, right? Oh, they got eliminated. They touched the buzzer. Oh, they came back. Okay, now they went back and they eliminated it all. It's those 1-on-1, 2-on-2s, and not just the 1-on-1, but it's the
1-on-3s and like those are really cool. The 2-on not the ones where it's like a 1-on-1 and it ends in like 30 seconds. You know? No, they're playing it out. Like
when they play it out, it's like because that's when it gets really exciting, and it's exciting to watch, and it's exciting. And as a player, it's nerve-wracking because, you know, when you have 5-on-5, even a 4-on-4, 3-on-3, you still have 2, 3, 4 guys to look over and be like, okay, I got help. You know, when you're in a 1-on-1, it's all on you. All eyes are now on you.
I'm telling you, like, one of the things I feel like, man, it would be so cool is that interaction. Seeing that interaction. Seeing the players go and try to, like, you know, because you're looking down sight. You're trying to, like, you know, and then you have you're trying to watch because you don't really know. So then you stop. And if both of you stop, it's just quiet.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, fuck, I thought he was behind. And then you're like trying to now you're like nervous, right? And you hear, and you're like, oh shoot, what's going on? And you start chopping, and you're like, okay, wait. And you don't. And I think seeing that dynamic, right, is really, really cool. I wish, and this is, I know I don't know how you're gonna feel with this, but I really, really like the way Airsoft does it, and I like the fact that they have like this building, and they're like in the building, and like you're just kind of like, you know, and they get to. I wish Paintball would. And again, the thing is that, like, I don't know how they do this in paintball and in airsoft, but like I wish there was like a sensor that you can put like a body chest or like something but it's not possible. But it'd be really cool. So you guys can have like different terrain and do like different cool things and be able to kind of like go in a cave and like, you know, be like, you know, and just have these 2-3 like make the battlefield a little bit more elaborate. But I like the whole kind of aspect of the way you guys had it, and it's very interesting. You can yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's really one of those things where I felt like, man, this is really, really interesting to watch, and it's a fascinating sport, and I think it really does have a lot of potential. But man, after talking to you and really getting, when we sat down the first time I had an interaction, I didn't really fully get what you meant by the cost. Yeah. But now that you're explaining it to me, like just putting it into hourly, like $20 an hour, even that person is like, fuck, dude, I got to drop $100 to go to this.
Yeah, it adds up. That's
brutal. Yeah. And it's like, you know, what do you do if the paint costs you that much and you have to be, and that's what you need to, I mean, literally, that's you can't just like, well, I'll just come show it with a gun. Like, no, like you have to buy the paint too, and that's just like, oh. And then and one of the things I noticed is they'll just drop paint on the ground. I'm just like, I'm picking up my paint. I'm putting it back. I'm like putting it back in the thing.
Yeah, like, that's one thing. If you ever go, I think I mentioned this last time. Like, I think SportsCenter, ESPN had a video of a dude just like he was just a pro player just holding a lane. If you just read the comments, everyone is just trashing the guy. Like, why is he wasting so much paint? What is he shooting at? He's shooting like 100 balls and he's missing like 99% of them. He look at all the paint he dropped on the ground, and it's people who just don't understand the game. No, but don't get me wrong, I see that too. Like you know, especially us, you know, being a pro player, you know, you get the, you know, this paint and stuff. You're not paying for it, you know. Whereas, you know, us in the divisionals, we are paying for it. So don't get me wrong, we drop paint a lot of times, but I feel like we try to take care of just that little bit more to where we don't waste it all. I would work there,
and I'd be like, hey, I'll clean up. And just I'll sell it on eBay. Like, yo, look, put. Like,
I saw a video one time that just it absolutely blew my mind.
Just vacuum it up.
I think it was from in I think it was Philly, the Philly event that they had, the Mid-Atlantic Major event a couple months ago. There's a video of a dude. He's like towards the center of the field. He's shooting. He reloads. He drops his gun because he's trying to find the bodies. He reloads, puts a full pot in his hopper. Comes back out. I think he shoots 4 times. Like literally 1, 2, 3, 4. Pulls out another pod and reloads again. None of the paint went in because he was still full. He literally did it real quick and then just let it go, and all the paint is still in the pot and it just fell on the floor. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like, you really just wasted that much paint. And it was mind-boggling because so many people in the comments were just like, what the fuck was that?
Rest in peace, paint.
Dude.
Rest in peace. For all the paint, all the paint
that's spilled.
All the paint that has never got shot. Hey, you know what? We'll remember you. It's real.
It's insane. You see it so many times. And like I said, it's the worst with the pro players because, you know, they don't care. Like, you'll see them like reload and like they'll get like maybe half of it in, and you're just like, what? Like you just spent like all that paint. It's so bad that we call it, when we see that happen, we call it a pro reload.
A pro reload.
You reload that bad that we say like that's a pro reload right there.
Look, you can't make this up. Yo, that's something I thought was like, man, all that. Dang, that paint just fell on the ground. Like, damn, no one's gonna pick that up. Like, yeah. I just felt like, yo, there must be an aftermarket of some guy out there just trying to vacuum this stuff up. You could create a business. That's serious. You probably
recycling paint.
Yeah, like look. I'll clean the field, and you just go around and just start vacuuming and just literally. Now, who cares if it's different colors? You just shoot people, right? No, I think that's interesting. I think yeah, this was a fascinating experience, and I hope that paintball can pick it up. I really do, and I hope that I don't know, man. I really hope that they can kind of figure out what to do to make it more cost effective.
It's crazy, you know, and that's so crazy how you say like cost effective, right? You know, you're new to the sport, you know, obviously, whereas me being I've only really been seriously into the sport for like the past 4 years. I played in high school a little bit.
Oh yeah,
but I didn't have time for it just because soccer was such a big part then. But if you compare like price of paint back then in comparison to what it is now, it's relatively cheaper now than what it is. So it definitely has become more cost effective. But
someone needs to create an easier way to make paint. There has to be more or less like paint in general is expensive. That's the fucked up part.
Yeah,
paint is expensive. They have to try it. There has to be a different like a different substance you can use that still gives you that like.
I mean, it's all biodegradable stuff, so it's like
that's not my thing. Is just like there something like watercolor or something. Like I know it sounds weird, but like because you want to make a material that feels slimy and it gets you like you can notice like okay I got hit, but you also want it to be like really like inexpensive.
Yeah.
Right.
What's crazy is earlier this year there was actually a movement by a company. So boxes of paint come in 2,000 rounds. You get 4 bags of 500 paintballs each bag, so a 2,000 round box. There was actually a movement by a company during earlier this year where they wanted, because of the rising cost, because paint prices have actually kind of gone up this year a little bit by like $5 relatively per box, and manufacturers are trying to cut costs, however they can. There was actually a movement where they wanted to drop the amount of paint per box to $1,600 and still charge the same amount.
Whoa.
Yeah. So but it got huge backlash. Like they were like literally everyone basically said fuck you if you do that.
Yeah, I mean you can't. You just. Yeah, I feel bad. This is a business and player issue. I think you just need more. You need more comments. You need more. You need more viewers. And if NXL can get that viewer count up, if they can find a way to get people involved and want it to be like rep their city, because you do have a city kind of rivalry thing going on.
Yeah.
Get the city involved and like have them invest in these netting, because the netting is the issue. Because you can't go to the park and start shooting around. You'll knock some windows. You hit some kids.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's difficult. I think during COVID times there were.
COVID's the best days. You just show no one's around. Everyone's in their house.
Yeah.
Just shoot around.
No, but like during COVID, they were trying to do a thing. It never came to fruition. But there was like, because of COVID and the travel restrictions and stuff like that, in order to keep the pro league going, they had this idea of having like regional events for like the pro teams, and then depending on how you place at those regional events, you would then play that one big event that would kind of determine your seating. It was kind of a way to make it so not everyone, mainly because of travel. But I thought it was a really good idea in terms of just if they did that for the lower leagues too, a real good way of like cost effectiveness. Instead of having to travel to these 4 locations where they have the events throughout the season, if they had more like regional events,
smart,
you could do that. And then depending on if you make it out of those regional events, then you could go play like World Cup.
Yeah, I think you just need a registry, right? You just say like, hey, if 200 people register in this region, then boom. Well, like I mean that's maybe too much, but you'll say like, hey, if 200 people or 100 people or 50 people register, then cool, you're eligible to do a regional event. So you're just trying to go to, hey, if you register, we can have one local here, and then people will be more interested of like, oh yeah, I'll sign me up, because then they'll be, you know what I'm saying, you have to put in time, put a down payment or whatever the case may be, but it shows that like, yeah, okay, great, and I think that I think that you're right. I think that would have create more regional support. It all's grassroots. One of the things that I don't know if you know anything about. You probably don't. Magic is going through like all hell breaking loose right now. I have to get someone on for Magic, but Magic is like the OG card game that's been around since
I know about Magic. One of my old roommates, he played it big time. And funny story. When I went to Sacramento to play NXL, the Airbnb that we stayed in, in the hallway closet, I actually found this huge fucking box of like 1,000 Magic cards. And I took them.
Oh yeah, you should have.
I gave them all to my buddy.
Fuck yeah.
He's a huge Magic. I think he goes to this place in like Upland. There's like a Magic.
Hey, tell him to join the dark side, because they're going all hell breaking loose right now. I need to talk to your buddy. But yeah, the whole market is just imploding. Like literally, the stock has like dropped almost 40%. It's crazy and they don't know what to do. But the biggest thing,
like on the prices of cars or something,
the actual stock at the company value.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the problem is that they keep squeezing the players. Like
right.
They don't really understand what the dynamic of what a player goes through in terms of like the journey of how hard it is to collect Magic cards.
Right.
And the amount of cost, because literally people work jobs that they hate in order to make money to be able to invest in these cards, because that's the one thing that they love. Yeah. And then they made a statement saying that, well, you don't need to buy all of our products. products. If you know, and it's just fucked up. It's like, dude, like these are like kind of these neckbeards like living in, you know what I mean? They're just kind of living in their home, and they're just trying to figure out how to they just trying to figure out how to live another day. And so one of the things I feel like is really tough for people is that like you stay too focused on the hyper competitive stuff and you lose the grassroots, the small communities that are what got those people into these pro levels. So I think if NXL really takes that sense of like, shoot, maybe we should go and focus a little bit more about getting new people in. Who cares about the major league people? They'll figure shit out, right? Yeah. Obviously, as long as we can get them as much hyper, the best views. Because when you watch NFL and you see them, they got 6 different angles on this one dude doing a catch, right?
Yeah, one catch.
And just 6 different angles. And like, literally, it feels like you're literally standing right there. But obviously no one's standing right there. They just zoom in and just catch the dude, and all these other angles are catching this guy, and it falls on the cameraman, and it's just watching every almost, because that's what you have to catch. You have to get those moments, because that's going to be really good for the viewer. And I think you have something really beautiful if the NXL can get the camera on the scope. If you can get that like on the scope and you can watch them, see them right? Right? And it's all about the playback, which I didn't see not one playback. And I was like, okay, they're gonna play it back though. They're gonna show me how the hell this dude got killed. But they can't, but because the games are just so quick.
Yeah, they're just going back to back to back to back. And it has to do a lot with cost too and stuff like that. Because, you know, that's kind of the one big thing is, you know, with they stream all the pro games on Go Sports, right? It's a subscription based website. You have to pay $15 a month in order to you know, be subscribed. And, you know, you'll always see people in the comments saying like, oh, the stream's down, oh, the stream sucks, this and that, why are we paying, blah blah blah, this and that. And then people will be like, oh, I'm unsubscribing, I'm unsubscribing.
Just go on YouTube. You will kill it. The ad revenue on there will just be good enough. You go YouTube Live, Twitch, or whatever, you'll make a killing.
Yeah,
you know.
But I mean, the argument too, you have to look at, you know, the other argument too. Like, people are like, oh, like, you know, unsubscribe. It's like, well, now you want the stream to get better, but now you're unsubscribing, so now they have less money to make the stream better. It's like, it's a double-edged sword. But it's not a good thing in either way.
Okay, but you can literally, because the one thing that NXL is doing, they're offloading it onto Go Sports. That's the problem. They're not doing it internally. Go Sports don't give a fuck.
Well, no, Go Sports pretty much is paintball. Like, it's literally for like paintball, really.
But Go Sports is selling like gear. They're selling they're selling paint, right? You said earlier Go Sports is either selling paint or they're selling their brand of shirts and clothes and stuff.
Not really. No, Go Sports is literally just a streaming service.
Okay, so then I'm confused, because then if that's the case, right? If Go Sports is trying to start their own streaming service, is it only for paintball?
I think there's like a couple like other small stuff on there, but
because it doesn't sound like a paintball like. I guess I think NXL right now, the reason I think NXL is trying to actually, you know, I get it now. NXL is trying to support Go Sports. I have a feeling they don't want to like let that company fail, and they feel like, oh man, you know, they're a part of the community, we got to help them. Like, that's your demise, man.
It's like a little bit of both, I think. It's tough, man. It really is tough. But as far as like Go, I think it is, because like I literally just go straight onto the Go Sports website, and it literally says official NXL paintball broadcast. It pretty much is for the NXL paintball. Like, you don't see other sports on here, at least not that I've seen.
Yeah, so see, that shows me that NXL is off. They're offloading it to someone else.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that Go Sports doesn't care. I'll take that back. But I think for more of a sense, I think, and again, for everyone out there who's, I imagine what's going to happen is they're going to be like, who is this guy talking about our sport? They don't even know. I'll be honest with you, I don't know shit about your sport, but bro, you all need to step your game up. Dead ass. And I'm not coming from a space of just trying to be mean. I'm coming from a space of just like, look, dude, you have some potential here. It's an insanely really fun sport. Like, I've seen some like, I was like trying to see, comparing it with like, airsoft, and I noticed that like airsoft is kind of like it's just kind of like, you know what I mean, military type of thing, and they try to get that, but I actually kind of like the speed and the agility and the kind of the fast pace of the paintballing world.
Yeah.
The only thing, again, it was really hard is to follow. And if even like, again, if you know it's hard when even Go Sports, the people who are controlling the cameras they don't even know how many people are in the fucking. They don't even know. They just have literally. I've seen people walk off the field and they still have 5 members on there, and the person on there is just. They're probably trying to find the button to press like to minus people, but they don't know like fuck. And then by that time, when they look down the keyboard to try to minus them, they're already
changing all the
It's
field
already
again.
like, oh shit, the game's over, and they just and I seen them literally just remove it entirely. There's still people on the field. I'm sorry. There's still people on the field, and they just removed all of them. Just said, "Fuck it, good luck. We'll figure out who it is."
Yeah.
And I'm just.
I mean, the idea is cool. It helps. It's a good way to keep track of people. But like, yeah, it's just there's so much chaos going on all the time that it really is hard to keep track of exactly what's going on at all, unless you are a paintballer yourself and you know what they're trying to do. It's hard to keep track. Because you don't know what they're doing. You all you see outside looking in, you just see for you it's just a bunch of dudes shooting at each other.
I understand the feeling because coming from the card game world, right? When you are watching card games, you can't read the card, right? You can't see it on the actual camera. You can't see the card itself. So you see the cards that are on the table and you see the pictures of them, but looking down on them, you don't even know what cards are being played. You don't know what the hell just happened. Yeah. That sucks. That's why Yu-Gi-Oh you saw the dragon come up and you're like, oh, I know what just happened because there's a big blue eyes white dragon sitting right there and he's about to go and he got 3,000 points and you can clearly tell what's happening, but they don't have such a thing for like a guy, 2 guys sitting there on a wooden table playing a card, and it feels like the same kind of concept is going on with paintballing. You have these players and so many things are happening all at once, and it's really just, again, hard to follow. That's what I'm telling you. 1v1, 2v2. If you guys, if that was, and again, if they could get that just started, people will grow into the 5v5 because I feel like you can, and it's much easier as a business to support one player like a Venus Williams or like a Federer, like a tennis player. You can support that one player and really like invest in them, and they'll feel like, oh shoot, okay, we're making moves here. Yeah. Anyway, that's just my food for thought.
I can see what you're saying. I definitely I can picture what you're saying and stuff like that. I think it's just the reason it's never been done is just because it's never been that way. It's never been
it's a team sport.
Yeah, it's never been an individual sport. It's always been about playing as a team. And even like I said, I mean, they still have smaller events. They're more like local stuff. It's nothing like on the NXL. But I mean, NXL, they do have 3-man events, where it's 3v3 instead of the full 5v5. So it's probably a little bit easier to follow, and it's also more cost effective to play that. And also because you have to think, right? I didn't mention this before. We kind of just kept going. So paintball has 2 formats. There's X-ball, which is the timed format, and there's 5-man. Which it's the same. It's played the same way, 5 against 5. The only difference between X-ball and 5-man, X-ball is timed. 5-man, it's points. So in 5-man, it's a race to 2 format. Basically, the first team to score 2 points wins the game, and it's way cheaper playing 5-man than it is playing X-ball. Like leaps and bounds. I think it's like I said, it's like 2,300 to play X-ball. I think it's only like 1,000 to play 5-man, and it's still D4. Like you can play D4 X-ball and D4 5-man, but it's like half the price to play 5-man because you're not playing as much, right?
Right.
If it's my team against your team, max we're gonna play 3 points before a winner is determined. Where in X-ball, if you have 12 minutes on the clock, you can play like 8 points before you win. So
sure.
The reason it's so much cheaper is because of also that reason. There's less games being played, so it takes up less time on the field.
But what do you think is fun?
I think they're both fun.
Well, come on now. What do you think is like more fun?
I like X-ball better. It's because
it's longer.
It's longer, but it allows more
chance to come back.
Yeah, exactly. 5-man is fun, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it shows the true level of skill is on display.
Okay, so
you can beat me 2 points in a row, and I just had 2 shitty points.
What if we do a 1-on-1 5? What if it was a 1-on-1 or 2-on-2, but just like a X-Balls format? Do you think you would explain that from your perspective of like what does that feel like? Like if it's just you two and you have, I'm telling you, give you some comms and you can hear the comms. If you can hear comms, do you understand how cool that would be?
They had that at one of the events. They actually mic'd up some of the players. I don't know why they didn't do that more. I think that is one thing that, aside from the camera angles, I think that would be really cool. I don't know how they would do it, but if you could hear and listen to what the
Are you kidding me? A 3-on-3 or 2-on-2, and you get to hear them be like, all right, you know, and you whispering to each other, and you're like, you know, like that's some of the best moments of any movie you watch, right?
Yeah.
You see these guys, and they're like in these tuck corners, and they're just like trying to make moves. And he's like, yeah, man, it's okay, 1, 2, 3, and then you start, you know, and like you don't get to have those moments because you have to shout. Ready? You know, and it just obviously it kind of throws it off, you know.
Yeah.
But the beauty of being able to have that, I mean, and again, I'm being extremely ignorant here. Okay? I'm being so ignorant. It's not even a joke because even that is not even possible for like a average game you would play at like at like just a regular spot in Simi Valley or something. But I'm just saying that would be lit. That'd be lit to hear the comms.
I for sure think being able to hear what the players are saying as they're playing, not just like in the pits when they're getting ready to go again, but actually hearing. And like I said, they did it before. They did it a couple events ago. They mic'd up like some of the players, and I think the fact that they didn't keep doing that, I don't know why. I thought that was that. I think that's like a missed opportunity to actually hear.
Gold Sports got one job. They got one job. They ain't got like 60. It's not like, you know, NXL, you kind of have an excuse, but Gold Sports, you have one job. Yeah. And your one job is to make sure that you give the viewer the best experience possible, because if you do, it's over. It's GG. Yeah. It's like you get to really get the graphs and you get the feel of like, oh man, do I like this player? Yeah. And you want to see that player actually get better and grow and so on. You making the player more famous per se, right? It allows people to get attachment to them and to continue growing, which is why soccer is so huge, which is why all these other sports are so huge. It's not so much the team, because I'm shooting, hey man, I want Sacramento to win, or I want LA to win, I want San Diego to win, but it's really just like, I want this player to win, right? LeBron James, and you talk about Steph Curry, and you talk about all these Serena Williams and all these other people who are in these great sports, So anyway,
I think, but like I said, like that one-on-one thing, I think that would be cool. That if they did, maybe not the entire season, I don't know how it would work, but maybe at and they were actually supposed to do it in Chicago when we went to Chicago, and they were actually going to do it for World Cup too. They were going to have an all-star game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So basically the best players from all the selective teams, they were going to have an all-star game. It got canceled in Chicago because of the rain. And then it unfortunately got canceled at World Cup too because of the hurricane that came. Yeah. But I think that would be a cool thing to do. That's something I think is cool. But I think one thing that they could do, like I said, even if it's just at one event, if they held like a one-on-one event, just of like, not every.
Can you imagine some of the top players? You know how cool that would be? Yeah. And again, you don't have to make it an X-Ball. Make it like 10 minutes. Yeah. And just see them just like go down to like 10. And you're like, fuck. Yeah. Right? And then you're just like, okay. And it's have them come back and just like see that development of just them coming back and just seeing them. I think that would be really cool to see a full story of these two people going at it and sitting down with their coaches like, what do I do here?
I think that would be cool. Like I said, not every event, like, and you can even have it like at events where they just have the normal tournament, the 5v5, 20 teams and stuff like that. But then have it like maybe at like one event, for sure. I think at Cup would be cool, and then maybe at one other event have it to where they have like
full mic it up, get the cams in there.
Yeah, like have it to like I think that like the whole everyone loves one-on-ones, and I think it would be cool if they take like get the 20 teams and pick like the two best players that they have. Like the two best like one-on-one guys that they have, and then have like a one-on-one tournament with all the teams.
Yeah, and then listen, I'm telling you guys, listen, put me in, coach. Okay, you go and do exactly what he just said, and put these cameras inside these inflatables. Like just put like 12 cameras inside the inflatables, right? Yeah. And you blow them up, and they're like all seeing different angles, and you have them censored. I'm just telling you, you have them censored, and once they pass the sensor, and the camera just kind of sees them passing and sees, you know, and you get to see like in there what's happening. And you have you cam them up, you put, you know, but obviously, you know, that's a problem. They have the weight on the camera and on the muzzle, excuse me. I mean, I get it, but it's a pipe dream.
I think hey, man. People like one-on-one because they did it. Actually, they had this thing that they did a while ago. They called it the Pro Tour, and it was literally just one-on-one paintball of like pro guys.
And how'd that go?
It was cool. I don't know about as far as viewership. I don't know how many people watched, but
that's probably the
at least inside the paintball community, there was a lot of people following it because it's cool. It's little and they don't play on these full size fields. It's like half size field, and these dudes are just playing one-on-ones on each other. And then they had another version. I forgot. I
think you do full size because watching a full size. No,
but that's what I'm saying. Full size would be cool, but they also did another one that I forgot the name of it. It was sanctioned by the NXL, and they would have these pro guys come out, and they essentially had you had like instead of touching the buzzer on the other side of the field, there were 3 buzzers in the middle of the field, and depending on what buzzer you touched, determined a certain amount of points you could get. So like shooting your opponent was 1 point, and then it's like each buzzer was an extra point. So if you like touched one buzzer and then shot your guy, you got like 4 points out of it.
Oh, that's dope.
And it was like a race to like first to 21. And so it was really cool just seeing dudes play one-on-ones against each other. So I think if they could bring that and incorporate it into an actual NXL event to where aside from the normal format that they play, have like a little one-on-one tournament.
Hey, let me keep this full stop here. I think that the 5v5 is as a viewer is funner to watch. Yeah. I'm just saying that just to start getting cameras and mics on these people, 2v2s would be more I would prefer because you have this team dynamic that happens. You have them whispering. 3v3s would be, I think, a perfectly ideal situation. But I rather see 5v5s. Yeah. But it's cost effective for you have like not so much paint that you're using as a team. You can you can obviously cam all these individuals and that you get to follow what's happening, right? You can hear the voices in them talking. You can you can make it 5 minutes and see them. So guys don't have to rush because it feels like you have these players and they're like running out of time, so they're just making decisions just rational, But if you give them the time to really think out a strategy, it makes it cool. So anyway, moral of the story, shout outs to NXL because that shit was cool. I liked it. I really hope that progresses.
Yeah. And NXL is great. I mean, they put us the biggest league, but
is that is that wrong to say NXL or is it better to say is it NXL or is it other things as well?
No, NXL is the major league. It's the biggest league, and it's the league that holds the pro division in it. NXL is great because it's what is keeping pro paintball alive right now, and but also you get to play the other divisions. But I mean, aside from going to play, like I said, going to play in NXL is cool, right? Because you get to play against all these other teams. You get to obviously watch the pro guys play, while you're not playing yourself. But play your regional events.
Regionals, yeah.
Play your local events. If you're here, right now, I'm, here on the West Coast, we have the WCPPL, which in terms of just size, it's 100% like second to the NXL. We have, on any given event, we have because there's no pro guys, but it's D5, D4, D3, and Premier, which is basically anybody who's Division 2 or higher. And we actually have pro guys come out and play the event because the Premier is technically an open event. So it doesn't matter what your rank is, you can play. Every team, you're allowed to have like one pro guy on your team. And some pros come and play. They guest with like these other teams.
That's dope.
To play. And if playing your local event is where you're going to get the return on investment. So like with the WC, right? And also an entry, right? Division 4 is only $1,000.
Right.
But if you win, you get a $4,000 prize.
Yeah, see? Yeah, look, I think you're right here. The reason I'm put so much emphasis on the viewership of things is because I think that's where people want to play. Because you want to be like someone, right? If you have a kid watching basketball on the screen, like, man, I want to be like Michael Jordan someday. Yeah. You then want to start, like, how do I get involved? And I think you're right. It starts with the grassroots. But I think if you want to get people like these young kids or other people really, obviously you have social media, which is a big aspect to things. But, like, you got to get the viewership. You have to get even we have people in our comments like when we're doing these podcasts,
Yeah.
the first thing that pops in my mind, yo, man, you need more cams. So we recognize like, damn, you're right. Like dead ass, the angles, the views, to get the real feel and depth of people.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of concept overall. But
yeah. I mean, and if you know, unfortunately, you know, if you've been following the NXL, you would see that like before they just had, you know, the cameras on the corners or the sideline cam. Now, you know, we have the fly-by-wire cam.
Sure.
That wasn't something that they had just a few years ago.
Right.
That's still something relatively new, and it opened up a whole lot of angles,
right,
in terms of, you know, being able to see. One thing I think would be really cool, I don't know how it would work, and just because of if it's a plausible idea, I'd love to see them use drones. I think drones on the field would be cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Then you could move it around and stuff like that. You could get like really close to a player. The only thing that I've heard some people say is if it gets shot, it probably is gonna break.
No, I don't think the shooting of things is really the issue. I think the problem is that like you're gonna tell where people are at. That's what I think is the biggest issue, because it is a very like you see during the games where like they don't have no clue where they're at.
Yeah.
If the drone is sitting there looking at the person, like, you know, the drone's like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Right. Then you kind of like shoot, you know.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel it. That's why I feel like you do have to have. But again, great
I
idea.
think it's a cool idea to have.
Just
you know,
kind of do it in a circular motion. Have like 4 of them travel each other, and you know. And
I think it would be a cool concept to introduce.
I agree.
To get new angles, right? And it's not something you have to do like use a lot, but like every now and then get like a drone shot in or something. I think it would be a cool concept. I mean, it's gonna take time. You know, the technology that they have right now in comparison to what they had before is way different. So there's always new stuff that they're hopefully gonna add in.
Sure.
In you know, as they hopefully continue to improve the streams so we can watch better. But yeah, like I said, I think, you know, like that, doing the mic'd up. If you can get a camera on like someone's gun,
sure,
they're actually playing, that would actually, because then you could actually see what they're shooting at and kind of actually really understand what we're doing on the field versus just, oh, these guys are just shooting randomly at each other.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yo, I love this, man. We got to do this again, dude.
Yeah, dude.
One of the things that we got to jump into is I want to get into this whole World Cup thing. But no, I really appreciate you. You know, you chopping it up, you sitting down with us, and you know, it was really cool to kind of jump into all this stuff. This is a very interesting world, nonetheless.
It's fun, dude. It's fun, and I hope like whoever watches this don't get discouraged from playing it because of the financial aspect of it.
Sure.
It doesn't. Can it be expensive? Yes. Can you make it Can you also make it cost effective? Yes.
Sure.
You know, it doesn't have to be.
Look. If anyone's sitting here tripping about this, if you know a golfer, this is nothing. Okay, so I don't want to hear anyone like, "Oh my gosh, what do you mean this is so expensive?" Like, come on now. Like, golfing is a whole nother caliber of costs. We're talking about tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
and people play that at a huge exponential level. So, like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But at the same time, I understand the like I said, the investment with all of it. So, we got to. I want to sit down again. I want to go and talk about the World Cup before that ends. So hopefully we get to do that again.
Oh, dude, I'd be down, man.
That'd be really cool to dive into.
There's just a huge upset this morning. I'm still kind of pissed off about one of the games that happened this morning.
Oh, see,
it's
real life right now. I'm
really
telling you, international World. It's and this is a single elimination, right? It's like you.
So they have a group stage first.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So they have the group stage first. You play your 3 games, and then top 2 per group advance to the round of 16, and then after that it's single elimination. You lose, you're gone.
You lose, you're gone.
Yeah.
This is the dream. So anyway, thank you guys for joining us for the Beanie After Dark edition. Thank you so much for joining us as well.
Thank you, man.
Shout outs to all the paintball players out there. Shout outs to everyone who kind of been joining us and wanted to chime in. We really appreciate that. Feel free to please subscribe. You know what I'm saying? Put the bell. And we obviously going to have a lot of shows. We're going to be light this week because of the holidays. So next week we're going to be doing a lot of getting really dive into it. So nonetheless. But how can they find you? How can they interact with you? Where do they contact you, Nick?
I'm on Instagram, Nikolai971. My Snapchat is the same thing. I mean, if you want to add me on Facebook, I'm always cool with that. If you want to get into paintball, look up your local fields, Action Star Games, Jungle Island, SC Village. If you want to, check out all the awesome gear that we have personally, please check out Matrix Gear USA. We're located in Wildomar, matrixpaintballgear.com. We have Tons of gear available. Like I said, we got plenty of Black Friday deals going on. And if you just want to learn about paintball, come on down to the shop.
Yeah.
We love educating people. We love talking to people. You don't have to come in feeling pressure like you need to buy something. If you want to just come in, like I said, just learn about the world of paintball, come on in. We're more than welcome to, spend time with you and, introduce you to this amazing game that we all love to play.
No, dude, I know Nick for a long time. He's a man of his word, so I really appreciate. And yeah, man, like I said, you might have to see. We might if we get 100 likes on this, you'll see me get shot up. I'm gonna see if we can go and join us on the next thing.
100 likes and we're gonna one-on-one. We're gonna run a one-on-one.
Sounds like a brutal experience. But awesome, guys. Have a good night. Happy holidays. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. Peace.
See ya.
Say I'm sorry. How much time we were at? What time was it?
2 hours and 15.
2 hours?
You guys talked a lot too.